All right, Kelsey. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Mr. Rogers used to say that. Did you ever watch Mr. Rogers?
It's actually a little snowy in the neighborhood today. And yes, I love Mr. Rogers.
I complained all morning. About the weather, and then I said I do because I seen a guy the other day was talking about what he done before he went to sleep. He done a gratitude prayer.
Yeah.
What he's grateful for. And I said, well, I'm thankful I got heat in my house. I'm thankful I got my truck runs. And
I've always heard doing it in the morning. I guess you do it at night because you make sure you're not grateful for nothing that went wrong during the day. You really earned it by the nighttime.
One thing I want to talk about, gifted people are often misunderstood.
I feel that way also.
Okay. And I know I could talk to you about this, okay? And I don't know if you, as my daughter, I don't deal into your home life. That's one thing I'm really big on. Okay, the reason why is I never want to have to take responsibility for you again.
Yeah.
So I don't deal into it. If you and your husband are fighting in the yard, fist fighting and stuff.
That's usually how we do it. We don't usually fight in private. We usually make sure there's an audience. That way we can get, am I right or is he right opinions.
Right. But your mom and I, we didn't share a lot of our marital problems with you kids because we tried to create a home type atmosphere, something that was welcoming.
Homey.
But we had problems. And this morning, for example, okay? Now I try to be nice and courteous, but it comes off as being a smart aleck.
Because usually you kind of are. Hey, you usually try to hide that under there.
All right, let me give you the scenario.
Yeah, give me the scenario.
So this morning.
See, this is what I was talking about. You do it in public, that way you can get am I right or they right opinions.
So this morning, okay, I leave her plenty of time to get ready. I tell her, go get ready, honey. Take time, and you go in there, and I sit down. I'm in the living room and stuff like that. And I said, are you ready yet? Yeah, I'm ready. I said, so I go in there, and she says, let me just put my curling iron here, and let me just do this there, and I'll move over to the side of the sink. I said, honey, I have a ritual that I go through, and I follow a system and a pattern. And well, she says, you don't have to be a smart aleck about it. I said, honey, I'm not trying to be well, don't be old poor pitiful me, she says. And I said, honey, I'm not being old poor pitiful me. I'm just saying, and she says, well, why don't you tell me, just get the heck out of the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, get the heck out of the bathroom. Then all of a sudden, I'm a smart aleck. Okay.
See, I think that's why the way me and Andrew speak, we are very crass. If I'm like, move out of my way, and he'll say the same thing to me. We don't have those problems. There's no oh, you're being no. We outright say, get the heck out of my way. I need in there, or you're in my way. You're bugging me. I need some space here.
See, I try to be courteous. I try to be courteous, but I'm older, and I say, I'm trying to be courteous to you, honey. Well, why don't you just and then she goes in there, but anyway, I just think it's where I'm gifted. And I'm misunderstood.
Yeah, I feel like that a lot. Yeah, I guess that's why I try to explain myself, because I'm also gifted and misunderstood. I try to help the others understand me better. Maybe that's what it is. It's the curse of the gifted.
We're supernatural people living in a common world.
We really are. Me and Andrew have this joke. He calls me and you sandpaper people, because how they say you got to have grit to make it through. Right. We are the grit. We don't have to make it through. We smooth down anything around us so we can do what we need to do. We're sandpaper people.
It makes sense to me. Sometimes I'll solve a problem, okay, and it'll be like I had a technical problem the other day, and I got a hold of the people that I work with in Canada, and I got a hold of these other people, and they started asking me all these stupid questions, and I said, I've already answered all those questions in the first email, and then so I just went and took it on myself, and I found the issue with what was going on and fixed it.
Yeah.
And I told your mom, I said, the only thing I worry about is one day I may just sprout wings and fly away.
It's just going to happen.
I said, the gift is hard to hide.
I tell Andrew all the time, it's so hard being right all the time. It's just such a burden. What is it like to just be wrong? I don't know. I wouldn't know. It's just all the time.
You should ask him what it's like to be a normal person.
I don't understand. Just tell me what it's like. What is it like for you mortals on Earth?
What is that?
But these are the things I'm right about. For an example, we were in Ohio this weekend, okay? Blizzard, snowmageddon happening.
Right.
He wanted to go to the golf course to hit on the simulator.
Right.
I told him they're probably going to be closed because there's 1 billion feet of snow and ice out there. No. out.
Yeah.
Sure enough, we get on Facebook and it's closed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm right about a lot of common sense things, but it still feels supernatural because it was so shocking to him.
Well, and the town we were in was under a stage 3
Everything was closed.
blizzard alert, and they're getting ready. We're going to go play golf at the golf sim. And I'm thinking, how are you going to do that?
I mean, it's inside, but still, you have to get to the inside, and you could not. Everything was closed. McDonald's was closed. Even Walmart was closing early.
See, that's when that happens. You better get ready. The Lord is coming back.
I said, Ohio's closed. We're leaving. And we did through a blizzard.
I was thinking about stages of life your mom and I have been through in our marriage and careers and things like that. And all 3 of you children have grew up in different, I've done over 100 interviews. And most of the people I've interviewed said, I think somebody should interview you, but I really couldn't think of anybody other than you. But I think about the stages that we've come through of work and things like that. And you grew up in one stage of our life, and Morgan grew up in the restaurant stage.
Yeah,
okay, when we had restaurants, and Colson sort of got the in between.
I'm the reason the restaurant's closed,
right.
so I'm sorry if you liked them.
He tagged a little bit of the restaurants. He said, but he I don't know what, he was sort of an all, he grew up in a little bit of all.
That's the middle child thing. He's sort of there and it all.
And but you mainly grew up in the television stage of this whole thing, of our of what we've done and what we've done. And it's really, when you think about the things that and we think about it as normal, but when you think about the things that you've done, I mean, I don't know how old you were. I don't remember how old you were, 12, 13, or whatever it was.
I just always.
You had a live TV program on the air 3 days a week.
Yeah.
A live TV program. And, I mean.
Before the live, though, I had, I used to read stories.
Right.
So I had that program before that. And even more before the live, I did one with Connie, Extraordinary People.
Right.
So I had those filming before I ever went live. Live was the easy, because I didn't have to think about it. Live was you're on, go, you're doing it now. And that's how I woke up in the morning and I did a live program, then I filmed a live program, and then I did school.
Right.
Like, that was normal.
Just normal. You didn't think about it. I mean, it's really so, when you think about those things that you did, and we look at it like it was just a normal situation.
Yeah.
That's like Colson down on the forklift at 12 or 13 or whatever he was.
Or whenever Melvin used to have to put boxes on it for me to be on the forklift because I couldn't hold it down.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you kids were raised in that atmosphere. You were raised feeding 45 ministries in a week.
Yeah.
And food loading over 3 million pounds a year, and then TV stations. And at one point in this, I had over 100 TV stations. And when you think about I don't know, man, that's just a wild. It's a wild run.
It's so normal, I can't think of the alternative.
Right.
And like, even when I was going to have kids, I never wanted Carter to have a normal childhood. I wanted to pack as much in weird as I could, because that's just how we are. I mean, and that's what he does too. He comes out here and films with you. You think there's any other 13-year-old filming,
Yeah.
I don't want a normal childhood. I didn't want a normal childhood. It was normal to me, but once I got older, I could look back and I'd be like, y'all was kind of lame. You were at school for 8 hours? Like, that's terrible. You weren't filming commercials when you were 16? What are you talking about? Like,
I think about that. I talk about Morgan, where she used to, go with Bobby and Sheila.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing. She'd done all that production work and done all that filming out there with him on the road agains, and that was a big thing to do. And how you kids have all come up in these stages and parts of this. That's and she the other day was talking about doing the filming and production with all that, and I've got all those programs. And this is the thing. I'll say this on the record. I do not expect you kids to keep all the video that I have done, because it's so crazy. Because from 92, everything was recorded.
Yeah.
Everything in my life been recorded.
I remember when we would come to the studio and just to clean or do things, Mama used to set us up music and would record us just dancing around in there while they worked. We have hours of that just nonsense.
I think about that. But when you think about that part of your life, and you think about now, I mean, what flavor it gave you. It gave you all these experiences, life experiences that were just fascinating.
Nobody else had those. I mean, I remember going out and hunting down commercials, before I was even 18, having to go cold calling, going into businesses and being like, do you want a commercial? That really made me have to And as much as I seem like an extroverted person, I really am like, oh, I have to talk to people. So, but it made me do it, and I knew how to do it. And I loved filming. But more than even being on, I was always on TV more than anyone because Morgan didn't want to do it. Colson was not going to be, so you had me. I was the one you put in front of the camera the most, but I loved editing the most. Like, I love editing videos. And it came from that. I remember even learning how to do like little different things with the cameras. I was like, watch out, y'all. I just liked it. I got to learn that without. That's what Colson went to college, and it was for, I forget everything, but it was for broadcasting and filming. I forget what I would call it, but I remember Colson being like, I know all this. I knew all this when I was like 16. What are we doing? I was like, I didn't want to say anything, but I couldn't imagine what they were going to teach you didn't already know. Like,
he still falls back on a lot of things when we talk about stuff. And we were out here working the other night, and he said, I sure miss this. He said, because he a real big part of the backbone of what we did was from him. He done
Colson
a big
did a lot of the behind the scenes. He was a lot more of the like programming and things like that than I was. There was stuff he did that I was like, what are you talking about? And then it'd become to working a camera, and he'd be like, what are you doing? But, we all had our expertise in it. There was a lot he did.
When I talked to him,
I lugged him around with me for cameras filming. I did the Lost and Found for the animal shelter, and I was like, Colson, we're going, let's film.
And he's always been right in there in the middle of that. And I think about the times that, if I talked about putting Morgan on camera, she would fall out on the ground. She is
like
not.
She wouldn't just be good at it.
She just absolutely would have a heart attack. She would.
I never understood how she got out of that. I really, when I think back, she was barely ever any on camera. I don't know how she got out of it.
I don't either. Somehow, I don't know, but she could get out of anything.
She could.
Morgan could. She had a way about her. There's anything she wants to do.
She would talk her way out of it, and I would run.
I was thinking about how you kids are all different, and I've shared this before with people. Morgan could get by with about anything. She had that gift about her to read the room, and I think that jumped over. I don't think that Caleb is like that, but John Colson.
That's what I think too. Like, that's one of my questions I was going to ask you was about, like, you had 3 kids, you have 3 grandsons now. Like, how do they? Somebody's got to match with somebody, and every time I think about it, I think like Kelsey and Morgan, they match. Like,
I think that's why they love each other.
It's going to explain why they're doing something bad and why it's okay. It's okay if I do this. Just trust me. Like, and eventually you give in. You're like, it's fine. I don't even care anymore. Like,
we always did with her. We would just give in and give up, and we just, and I think about that, and I don't know, when I look at them, I think that really Carter has more of Colson.
He has a Colson vibe of like, I'm gonna let it roll.
Okay. My wife Janice coming in here. What I hate is people that you hire that try to run the situation.
That's what happens when you hire family.
Especially
when it's your wife.
We have a list of questions, but we can do what we want.
I got one of mine in just now, though. You were answering it. Caleb. Who's Caleb? Who would Caleb be?
Caleb, I really don't know.
See, that's what I was trying to think of. Caleb is very much a peacemaker in a lot of ways. Like, if things are getting crazy, Caleb's not going to get crazy with
and everybody
him.
loves him. Now, he's got a dose of Colson.
He does. See, that's what I couldn't decide between him and Carter.
He's got a dose of Colson. He really does. And, Carter's got so much of Andrew as far as the analytical point.
He does.
And, now Caleb's got that laid back. And everybody that meets him loves him. When you go to Ohio, people love Caleb, love my grandson.
Mellow. But you know what an experience is where you see the Morgan and Caleb is if you get Caleb and Andrew in the car and directions or where to park, all of a sudden Caleb's Morgan. Caleb turns into Morgan. He knows where to go, and you've got to do what he's telling you. Like, very much so.
When you think back on your childhood, okay, when you think about moments that stand out to you, what are some things that sort of stand out that you lean toward?
I have, there's like stand out in funny family memory ways or like things like that. Like, memory-wise, you always did stuff with, it wasn't like we went on vacations like crazy. We went on big vacations. That was always a thing. But it was always those little weird moments. You woke us, and no one should do this. This is not advised. And I think I actually read on the news somebody got hurt recently doing this. But you woke us up in the middle of the night, one snowstorm, to hook the sled to the back of the Explorer and pulled us down the road. That was one of those things that I look back on. I'm like, how did he talk Mom into doing it, first of all? How did she not stop us? You know what I mean? But it was just one freak little thing that's just a memory of that I've kind of passed on. Like, do the random crazy things on a random day because that's what makes the memory. You know, like do it while you feel like it.
I remember that night. I remember we
I remember the
up and down
bumper.
Hill Street, we got, and then I put more. I think I let Morgan drive some, so I got back and rode.
Yeah, because you had to ride with me.
Yeah, I got back there and rode.
Because you wouldn't.
some.
That was that. Now, as safety protocols, y'all wouldn't let Morgan or Colson ride with me on the sled.
Right.
You had to ride with me on the sled. So Morgan drove the car.
Yeah.
Where was Mother? Where was she
I
at?
don't know where
That's
she
what I don't
was.
remember in my brain. Was she at the house? Was she like, I'm just going to pretend it's not happening? Where was Mom?
She was inside putting your towels in the dryer so they would be warm.
And our clothes in front of the heater.
Everything be out to be warm when you kids got
We
back
had our
in.
Walmart bag, our bread bags on our feet so we would get wet. Yeah, that was one of the main ones.
Are there any near-death experiences that stand out?
That was probably one.
You wasn't too much near death with that.
No, there's probably a lot near. I remember you crushed my hand in the church door. I remember that one. We were at church early, which was a big deal if we got to go to church with you, because usually we weren't allowed to ride to church with you because we would drive you crazy, and you were trying to be.
I couldn't be spiritual when you kids
and we
with
would
me.
bring out the devil.
I always rode alone.
I got to go with you, and everything was smooth until we got in the door and you shut it. You shut my hand in the car door too.
But I've done it several times.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. That just came back like a trauma.
But that wasn't, that wasn't.
We
really
were going
my
down
fault.
the road.
That wasn't my fault.
And the seatbelt was stuck in the car, in the door, and I told you, and you reached back to open it for me so I could get my seatbelt out.
Which is hard to do.
It was hard to do, okay, but I wasn't fully out yet, and you shut the door back on my hand, and I'm screaming, you're driving down the road, what's wrong? My hand is in the car, Father. That's what's wrong. I'm surprised I have fingers. They're all here.
Right. But I had to reach back.
I mean, it wasn't
That wasn't easy to do.
Why couldn't I
get the
open
door.
it
I
with
don't
my other
know.
hand?
I don't know. I don't understand.
I don't understand that one
But
either.
I remember that as being a traumatic experience.
I mean, yeah, that was tricky. Let's see.
Yeah, there were several things like that.
There's several. I've been thrown from many ponies, but that
Right.
usually wasn't your fault. That was
No.
usually Morgan's.
Right.
You did come and try to round up the pony because it had my saddle on it once that I got thrown,
Yeah.
and this pony took off with my saddle. I mean, I feel like there's probably a lot of those. One that was funny of where you were having to be Mr. Mom was when I was cheering, and Mom and Morgan were out of town. I think it was like on a women's conference or something like that, and you were in charge of getting me to the football game, and we got there, and I didn't have the right shoes on to start off with. I had to wear them anyways, and I forgot my pom-poms, and I told you you had to go back to the house and get my pom-poms, and you were like, where are they? And I said, they're in the freezer. And anyone who cheers knows that you put them in the freezer so they're extra scrunchy and puffy. And I remember your face when I was like, they're in the freezer, up to the stands, and you were like, and she's lost it, But you got them. You got the freezer pom-poms. I mean.
As you kids, when you grew older too, and I had to babysit, there was a season that I had to babysit in
that whole
life.
series was a near-death
It
experience.
that was a hard thing to do. I mean, for me to babysit, your mom was working some and I was ministering some, and it was really hard to babysit. I remember hiring one babysitter that was had some challenges, and I would have hired Charles Manson.
I don't think that was me though. That was Morgan. That might explain her.
And I come home. Your mom come home, and she had all the blinds and curtains were shut, and they were sitting in the middle of the floor. She was sitting in the middle of the floor with the kids in the dark, and I said, I think she's okay.
Just have a quiet time, think with your thoughts.
As long as I don't have to watch them.
I would think I was either not there or I was too young. It was just Colson and Morgan, because that one didn't. You may need to look into their life with that one.
I think about the seasons that we went through, and different with all of you all, but with it was all dramatic with Morgan, where she was the firstborn, and I didn't really know what to do with all that mess, and especially having a girl. I mean, first thing I said to Dr. Olinger is, what am I going to do with a girl?
That's what I thought. Whenever I was pregnant with Carter, I was just like, be a boy, be a boy, be a boy.
And then Colson wasn't too bad when we brought him home, but by the time we had you, I was used to it.
That's what I was thinking today, differences, because Carter's an only child. So there's different things I do parenting him without even thinking of it. He's an only child, so I just do. And I was thinking about how I was raised, and I was like, well, Mom and Dad were kind of like that with me, because I kind of got the only child treatment there towards the end, because I was younger.
Right.
Y'all were sort of over it. So we were like buddies, we're parents, but I remember I wanted to do stuff with you and Mom and Dad. That's what we did.
Yeah, it was a little different. They were getting older, and the other kids didn't really want anything to do with it.
No, and I was kind of the only one for a brief minute there. So I kind of got the only child vibe anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
I think one of the things too, though, You were a little yappy.
Yeah,
when
just a
you're
little bit.
when you smiled. I think because you were sort of short, and little. And,
Little man
and
syndrome.
I'm thinking that because you were bossy with the other kids, so you would line them up in the yard and tell them what to do. And here you were, a little old tiny thing, and you would be out in the yard giving them the what's for. And
well, everyone was older than me. Everyone was bigger than me.
Right.
Think about all our friends in the neighborhood. All of them were older than me. And then I was tiny for what I was anyways.
Yeah.
I had to be seen. I had to do something.
Yeah.
I wasn't born to be a wallflower.
I remember when we had you at home and you were there in the yard and your mom had one of those square things that
Little
she kept
playpen, pack and play.
outside. Yeah. So you were in it, and then all of a sudden your mom come around. And the other kids were piled in it, and it was all sagging in the bottom. Jessica Gillespie and Brittany and all of them were piled inside there with you in this playpen, and it was sagging. You kids, you broke the bottom out of it.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine?
I probably told them all, get in. I can't be out there to play, so you have to get in here and play with me.
Think about that time though, and that season in life.
Yeah.
That was different. All the kids were there playing together, and y'all would play together all day long.
Every day.
And I don't know, have you seen that in your life?
I mean, it's so different too, because you can look at it as like, oh, they don't do it anymore, but like there is no kids on our street.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Carter's the only kid on our street, like all the way down has children, but they're very young and they're little girls. So you know what I mean? That's it. There's not really a lot of kids on the street.
Right.
So I think it's that too. We were blessed. Like our neighborhood was the perfect mixture of kids. We had them right next to us, right up the road. Like we had the perfect setup for that. I don't know if there's that many setups for that. I feel like we may have been rare, but it was. Kids did go and play more than they do now.
I wonder if it's because, I don't know if it's because of where we're spread out now or what the reasoning is behind it. But when you think about how there's a difference there as far as, and maybe there's some places where the kids are all playing on different blocks and neighborhoods. I don't know. Maybe they're there, but
proximity.
But you don't know memories are memories when you're making them.
Yeah.
I've said that before. So those memories that you had growing up, and you think about the other kids around you and the things you got to do and go play, and that was just I guess that to me is a highlight of looking back, seeing you kids play.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was that cool when it was happening.
So you didn't know whenever you souped up our Hot Wheels car, or what was it called? It wasn't a Hot Wheels.
No,
what was
it was a little
that
electric
you souped
car.
up the battery that we were going to shoot to the moon.
Well, this would have done. That little battery made no sense to me.
It was a Barbie Jeep or something.
In that car. It was a little four-wheel Jeep. It was and I said, if I put a die-hard car battery in this, that'll really be something. And probably could have got by with that, but I had to wire out the gas pedal because you couldn't use the gas pedal because it burned it up. But so I put a switch in it. And I remember flipping that. You could flip that switch, and them wheels would just spin.
To the moon. So that would be one of those near-death experiences. We might throw that in there. Yeah, that was probably it.
And then the time I brought a three-wheeler home. I don't know if you remember that. I bought a three-wheeler at a yard sale down at the church down there. It was a regular three-wheeler, which they outlawed eventually. And I brought it to the house, and I said, the kids will have fun with this. It was a gas-powered little Honda three-wheeler. Yeah. And so I don't know if it was one of y'all got on it, but anyway, you took off on it and you hit the side of the house and it climbed right up the side of the house and flipped backwards. And your mom come out there and made me go back down there and take it back.
I mean, that seems. Did you get your money back?
Yes.
Oh,
and it was very embarrassing.
So you got the memory and your money back. You needed it just for a minute for the memory, and then you were done.
It was very embarrassing. I had to go back and told that man my wife said brings this back and get my money back.
My wife said I couldn't have this.
I did. And he really didn't want to, and I said, but you don't understand. I've got to give it back. I got to have my money back because
That brings me, they told us to ask questions. That brings me to one of mine. What did you get in trouble for the worst when you were a kid? What was the worst time you got in trouble?
Oh, skipping school.
I knew it was going to be.
I skipped school one time, and there's other things that I've done, but not real bad stuff. But I skipped school. I remember one time that my mom and dad didn't know it, but I was with some boys. Jim Shelton and Beavers, Ricky Beavers and some of them, but they had cigarettes, okay? So they gave me a cigarette, and I said, whoa. So I didn't want to smoke it, but I put it behind my ear.
You didn't want to,
be cool. I started walking down the railroad tracks on my way home. But first thing I knew is I'd go to hell for smoking that cigarette. Yeah. And if my mom and dad found out, I would go to hell before hell.
It's going to be worse than hell.
So I dug a hole in the ground. Okay, I took me
grow
a
a
piece of
cigarette.
wood right beside the railroad tracks, and I dug a hole and I put it in the ground and covered it up. Then I laid a big rock on top of it because I knew Jesus couldn't see it.
No,
if it had
not
that
under the
rock on
rock.
it, because I knew I would get in trouble. But when I skipped school, I thought, I don't know why I skipped school, but anyway, I skipped, and Jim Shelton and I went in an old house up on the hill, and we were playing cards till we got bored. And then it got up around lunchtime, and we were hungry. We got hungry, and we said, well, we'll sneak back down to the house and get us something to eat. Now, meanwhile, the school had called. My parents were crying. They were all, Mom was mad, and everybody was upset, thought maybe we'd been kidnapped. And so when I got down the house and I opened the door, there was my dad, my grandpa Shelton, and my mom.
He had an intervention.
My dad had these switches that were just a step below a telephone pole. And he took to whipping me with that. And, I mean, my dad, too, when he whipped somebody, he whipped you.
I can't believe it.
I landed on the table, okay, up on the table, and he's whipping me, man. He's whipping the fire out of me, okay? And so then it's after lunch. He goes and makes me put a pair of shorts on and takes me back to Excelsior to school. And they only got like an hour left.
I feel I probably would have. Be like, you know what? No, you're still going to go.
There I am, beat up, look like I've been in a bar fight.
Did you skip school again after that?
And he told me, these were his words. He said, you do not have to go to school when you don't want to. You just tell us because we don't want to be worried about you.
And so that's what happened afterwards, right?
So
that's what happened on Monday and Fridays. Is that what happened?
I didn't go to school on Monday and Friday a lot. Okay, I never. If they
you were ahead of the curve on that. Let's do a 4-day work. You were like, you know what? Better 3.
I figured 4 days is enough for the amount of education I was getting. And unless there was something really special on those days, I didn't go. I remember one time when I got to high school, same rule. When I got to high school, and Mr. Holbrook, who was assistant something or other, but he wrote this note out. They showed on this note it had all the times my grandmother died and all these things, and because they kept a log of that. Okay,
Was that your excuse?
They kept a log of my excuses. So he
How many grandmothers do you have, son?
I had all this stuff.
How many dogs?
So he said, you got to take this home and get your parent to sign it. So I took it home, and my dad went through some times he was aggressive, and my dad tore it up.
That's the story I remember.
So, and I've got a copy of it somewhere. He tore that up in little pieces and said what I could tell Mr. Holbrook to do with it. And I thought, gosh, if I tell him that, I'm going to be in trouble. And so I got the tape and taped it all back together. And I got a picture of it taped back together.
I've never seen this.
And I took it. I've got it.
I've heard the story. I've never seen the paper,
Oh,
though.
it was terrible. It had all the stuff on it, all the writings on it why I wasn't at school. And I took it back to Mr. Holbrook and gave it back to him. And they never really, in school, I used to get a beating in school too. It was like they gave you paddlings.
I feel like oh, really?
And I don't know why.
Oh, did you get paddled? Did you have to look at a paddle?
Yeah, you just looked at one.
That's what because I was like 4 pounds.
Yeah.
They really couldn't spank me. It would have been a problem,
Right.
okay? I just got in trouble where they would put the paddle in front of me,
Right.
and I had to stare at it.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do. I memorized, that's another thing, your names were signed on it. If you'd been spanked by the paddle at school,
Right.
your names were signed on it. So I memorized the names and everything. Like, I just had to stare at the paddle, but...
This paddle, Mr. Musser, he was a big guy. Big guy. He was the assistant principal. Mr. Turner was the principal. Mr. Musser was a very big man, and I barely weighed 1.25 when I was in school anyway.
Yeah, you were
twice a
scrawny
man
for a long
now.
time.
But the paddle he used on you, they had holes drilled in it, so it would whoop you in the rear end, and it would just sort of give you a vacuum when it hit you. And what they would do too is they would turn the intercom on at Big Creek and say, John Dash thought it was really cute that he'd done such and such.
They could never do that nowadays. Oh my gosh.
And they would say, he's getting 5 licks. And they would turn the intercom on in the whole school, and he'd have you bend over.
Could you imagine if they did that nowadays?
They need to do that to adults, but they would have you bend over the desk in the principal's office, and he would hit you so hard you could almost feel your feet come off the ground. But one time, because I thought I'll get ahead of the curve, and I went and got me some paper towels and put down the back of my pants, and like you couldn't see him. So when he lifted up my shirt and seen
Paper towels
my rear end with these paper towels, that added 2 more licks to the paddling. And one time we was coming home. I rode. Went to vocational school when cause I wasn't gonna be a doctor. They started me in vocational school when I was in the 8th grade.
Sorry, yeah.
I wasn't concerned about my academics, just my. So
well,
anyway.
You weren't there enough for them to be concerned about it. And when you were there, you were just getting paddled. So I mean, like, they figured for his health and safety, we need to put him in vocational. That way, we got to help the guy out.
They would forever get us trouble on the bus because we would do things on the bus. It's because it was a long bus ride to Welch and back every day. You're riding across that mountain every day, and we would do things. So one day, I had this cousin. That was a ding-dong, okay, a ding-dong. They would come in from Michigan and stay with us at times, and then just destructive people. And anyway, so I'm in school with him. We went to vocational school, and he had a bag of ball bearings. So, I sit on the very back seat of the bus. He sit on the back seat of the bus because that's the type of people we were. And but he poured them out on the bus. So they're rolling as we go across the mountain. Okay, so these steel is rolling all over the bus.
That's
okay,
so good.
So we get to the high school, and the bus driver steps up and says, "No one move."
Oh.
So I knew we was in trouble.
Big
okay,
trouble.
So he said, "I'll be right back." I went and got the principal and brought him in. Brought Mr. Musser in, assistant principal. Was more scared of him. So he starts
the paddle
walking.
guy.
He starts walking. First seat, did it come from behind you? Did it come from behind you? Did it come behind you? So he gets all the way to the back seat. There's me and this reject cousin of mine, And I said, "Aren't you going to ask me?"
You got a reputation.
He said, "No." He said, "You can you get I got either 7 days suspension or 10 licks with the paddle."
What'd the cousin get?
It's same thing.
Okay.
He wasn't smart enough to hurt him, so you get either 7 days off or you get 10 licks with a paddle. So,
give me the days off.
I took the paddle. So I didn't want him to call my dad.
Oh yeah. Oh no. In that case, yeah.
So he took us in and paddles over that.
You should have did what I used to do whenever Mom would try to spank me when I was little. I would hit the door and run.
You would run all the time.
By the time I got to stop sign, she was like, "I don't even care."
I don't even know if we ever got to whip you. Did we ever?
I don't have any. I know you did, but it definitely. I wore you out before you could, so it was more like a swatting.
You could run like a deer.
Yeah.
Okay, and Colson never could run. Colson would stand there and take it.
Your drive, you can run very fast. And Colson was always getting whooped, so I saw it all the time. So I was like, "That's not gonna be me. I'm a run."
Poor little Colson, he'd get whipped in every church we'd go to, wouldn't he?
Yeah, we would be. Anytime we'd be cutting up at church, and our friends would be like, "Your mom's looking at you from the choir." We'd be like, "Don't look at her," because at least we could be denying, like we didn't know we were doing anything wrong. But if you made eye contact, and Mom was like, "You knew," you were like, "Man, I have to stop now," because she knows. We were always.
But Colson
But in our
would do
defense,
stuff.
we spent like 80% of our church in a church service. We had to talk at some point.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
we were going to talk. I remember a tent revival one time. Me and Colson had to stretch Armstrong, and we were in a row because it was like the 400th night of a tent revival. So it was just us and the pastor at this point.
Right.
Everybody else got all they could get, and it was me and Colson were scooting farther apart in that aisle until we ripped the stretch Armstrong to see what was inside of it. So we got to do that at a tent revival. And what one were we at where it was coming up? Remember the storm was so bad that people were at the poles holding the tent.
It was out
down?
here. I was at the poles.
I can't remember where we were though.
It was Mike Ferree's tent. It was right out here at Tazewell.
It was terrifying, but it was so cool at the same time.
My feet come off the ground holding the pole.
Holding the poles.
What was that hurricane? I can't remember what it was. Come through, but anyway, it stretched the tent. It was so bad.
Nobody stopped singing though. They sang louder, and we stayed in that tent because the option to leave the tent was really not there. It was hold the tent down. But I remember the water coming in on the ground and everything. That was a good one.
I can't remember what hurricane that was.
I can't remember either, but that's a memory I have of holding that tent down and just looking around, being like, "These little flaps are all that's protecting us." And didn't slow down that service none.
No, we didn't.
Those were the experiences I had growing up. Those are the ones where I just can't.
Well, until I started pastoring, your mom was pregnant with you when I started the church.
Yeah.
At Church on the Rock, when I started there, that she was pregnant with you, and because I remember her coming in with her belly all sticking out, and when we started
Mom
that
always
church.
looked like she was pregnant with triplets. Like,
Yeah,
somehow.
yeah.
Always.
She
and
carried
she was
heavy.
a lot of belly. Me and Morgan didn't carry that way. Me and Morgan got pregnant. We were pregnant everywhere. Like our noses went to our cheeks, like everywhere pregnant. Mom was just a pot belly all the time.
You know, and your mom, she worked right up till her water broke. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, she worked and she just was like that, man. She was good at having children.
Well, that's one of the when you'd sent me some of your questions was like, what was one thing I felt like I was supported?
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there trying to think of something, and I was like, I can't think of one time because it wasn't like it was ever a big deal.
Right.
And like when people say, oh, you can't do that because you're a woman, don't let them tell you can't do it because you're a woman. Ain't nobody ever told me I can't do nothing because I'm a woman. I was emboldened so much to probably a flaw of you can do it better because you're a woman. Like that's how Mom raised us, was like, if you need to do it, go do it, get it done. There's nothing you can't do. It doesn't matter that who you are, that you're a woman. And you raised us the same way. We at the barn, you needed something done, go do it.
Right.
Okay. It didn't matter if you were a woman. It was so I always, y'all put so much confidence maybe to a flaw that like I can do it, whatever it is. And I had the same thing at the house. Like we need drywall put up, and I was like, I bet I could put that drywall up. Give me a YouTube video. And that's just where I am.
Yeah.
Like there's never a time I didn't feel supported. I was overly supported.
You know, and that's what
we
what
could
we
like
wanted to do.
slightly mention a dream, and y'all were like, "Let's do it." We're like, "Easy, we're not ready yet." Like,
Your mom was forever making me slow down.
Yes.
Because if y'all wanted to do something, I said, okay, let's build the building and
Let's
get
go.
it started. And I'm always telling her, I said, does Kelsey want to do anything? Is there a business or something she wants to do?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And let's just sit up and do it and make it work. One thing that I think about a lot is I think about you girls and Colson when you went to find a husband or a wife, that one of the traits, and it could be subconsciously, but what you looked for.
Yeah.
I think about this, okay, now your mom is a good worker, and I've always been supportive in her work.
She's a workhorse.
But I think about you were not interested in a man that did not work. And it was strange to watch, because I would watch these old boys come in, smelling good, looking good, and I'd watch them come in, and I get to watching them. But if they weren't workers, if they didn't have that trait, that you didn't, because there was
it's
one.
even more than workers. It's excuses. I can't stand when there's always an excuse or like a reason or not doing something. Come on, man up. Like
I knew there was one old boy you're looking at, and you were sparking, and he got someone to clock in for him while at work one time, and I remember this. He got somebody to clock in for him while he wasn't at work, and I remember you finding that out. And from that point, I could see that emotion just begin to drift away.
See, that's just like excuses and laziness, and I never liked that. And I remember when Andrew asked me to marry him, and I told you the first thing you said was, "Well, at least he's a worker," and I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly right." Like that's what made me first. I remember we were all friends with the same people, and everybody was always talking about Andrew going to get groceries, and I was like, why is he grocery shopping for himself? He lives at home. Like we were still young, 18, 17, It was because he had the job and he had to have work. And I was like, well, where does he work? And then they told me, I was like, oh, he's got like a job, Like I just like that. And it would be Andrew, whenever we were out, Andrew would leave early because he had to go to work. Or Andrew was gone because he had to work. There was no skipping days for nothing, like I very much like. He's still the same way. He's still the hardest worker in the room, even to his own flaw sometimes. Like,
I just think that, and Herman's a good worker. Herman goes at it hard, and Chris is like a little firecracker about everything.
Sometimes you got to direct Chris though, because she's like a cannonball. She's, you know what Chris is? She's like the ball in a pinball machine.
Right.
She's gonna do something. She's gonna get something done, but it's gonna be a little crazy before it gets done. She'll get it done.
I've come home twice in the last little bit here to the house in the last 2 days, and the house be upside down, and I told your mom, I said, what are you doing? And then I went to the gym this morning, and I come back home, and there's tables pulled out, there's stuff moved around, and then yesterday I come in, that morning she started taking everything out from under the bed. Okay, and I said, the reason we put it under the bed is so we don't have to look at it anymore.
But you got to look at it every now and then to reassess it.
Well, she took it all out. Everything was out on the floor, and she was telling me, I got this plan, I'm going to do this. Well, then when I come back home later, way gone. I'd went to war and come back, it's still all out, and she's in the
Yeah.
office working on something else. And I said, honey, I forgot
Sometimes
about
you
that.
squirrel in the middle of it, you know? I remember that growing up. Mom would start a project, and it'd be this project, that project. She got them all done, but you just had to write it out. I remember Andrew comes home, he'll like look around, stuff will be a mess. I'm like, I've got a plan, just stick
Yeah.
with me, you know? Like, and that was one of the reasons that I always knew I was going to get married, but like I was in no rush, because I am not a delicate wallflower person. I am independent. I am loud. I've
Right.
got, you know what I mean? I got an opinion, and I'm going to say it. I might back up and go with your opinion afterwards, but I
Right.
need to get mine out, you
Right,
know?
right.
And I never met anybody that could handle that,
Right.
you know? Andrew not only can handle it, he like enjoys,
Right.
you know what I mean? He eggs me on a little bit. You know, I can have a wild plan, and he just sort of goes with it. And I guess it's because I grew up watching you and Mom.
Right.
You would do, I mean, just your entire life is nonsense. But Mom would just go with it. You know,
Right.
it makes sense of your nonsense. And me and Andrew kind of do that. I have
Yeah.
nonsense, he makes sense of it. He has a lot of nonsense, and I make sense of it.
Yeah.
You know, like, you just,
Yeah.
it wasn't a question of if you're going to be supported or if they're going to be with you. They just, you know?
You know, we went through a period there where we were broke as convicts. Your mom and I were. I mean, we were broke.
I always remember growing up, and I was like, you mean your power didn't go out a lot? I thought there was like something wrong with the power grid. Like our power went out all the time. Like the street lights were still on, but
Yeah.
they're on a different breaker. It doesn't, you know?
I shared that, they turned our water off 3 times 1 year. I was out preaching the gospel, thank you, Jesus, and, getting offerings $7.
Prosperity gospel.
It was just, it was, everybody said, there's one of them rich preachers.
Yeah.
And I'd have to go outside and turn the water on at the water meter so everybody could take a shower and take
Yeah.
a bath and turn it back off so I didn't go to jail.
Yeah.
But I mean, but we come through these phases, but your mom would always tell me we're together, and there never was nothing like, she's always supportive.
Yeah.
And that kind of strength, man.
That's what it always felt like. It never felt like, oh, we don't have power. Like, Mom never, it was just like normal. Like, we
Right.
played games in the dark, and we had candles, and it was a
Right.
good time. You know what I mean? It never felt, it was just like, normal, whatever, move on, And like, even like vacations, even with all that going on, y'all always had us on vacations, Now, we vacationed in like our family 4-room cabin that we, got, this didn't have to do that. We ate off the dollar menu,
Right.
but it was a vacation. It
Yeah.
never felt like sacrificing anything or like trying to live pinch penny. No, it's just, I'm living, like.
Yeah. We had, I've got friends that are really good with finances and planners and stuff like that. And I've got some I'm totally the opposite of in that respect. And probably, this is the thing about you kids. All 3 of you kids make more money than your mom and I've ever made.
Yeah.
Y'all just you do good, and we're proud of that. And that's not the success that I look for and see. But I mean, I think about things with you kids as we grow up. If we get little money in our pocket, or we get a credit card with some room on it, we would go to Pigeon Forge or to Dollywood, and we would open it up and close it down till nothing was left of us. I remember I'd find some place and take a nap on the wall somewhere because we didn't want to let up. We wanted to get everything we could get out of it.
I mean, I remember you taking naps on the bench in Dollywood like that. And I remember being in, and it wasn't like people hear, oh, you went there, you must know. Like when we were in Dollywood, I remember being like, Mom, I'm so thirsty. And her thing was, drink your spit.
We didn't know they get free water.
And it wasn't until I was grown that I learned they have free water at Dollywood. I didn't have to drink my spit all these years. I could have had a water, But I mean,
we didn't know
it's just what we did. But you know what? We ate at the same restaurant every time we went. Like the stuff we really wanted to do was always budgeted. It was always, we could do it, and we had fun doing it.
And I think growing up, sometimes we get to looking at the big vacations and the big stuff when those little times that you take I think sometimes it's more quantity of time than quality of time. If you can spend more time with your family and spend that time with them and do things with them. And I know that one of the decisions that you made is to homeschool.
Yep.
Okay. And, what weighed on your mind, or what benefits, or what do you see in homeschooling Carter?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, there's, like I talked about, I didn't want a normal childhood. I didn't want him in school for, 8 hours a day sitting there. It just, I grew up homeschooled from, I think, 3rd grade. Once you do that, you realize that's just so much wasted time. It's not necessary. It's really not necessary to be there that long. It's a daycare is what it is a lot of the time. And I didn't want that. And he had gone to public school for 1 year, and like my skin just crawled when I did it. You know what I mean? And everybody says there's something for everybody, and there is. And I understand why some kids can't be homeschooled and they need to go. It is. But I knew I had a kid who didn't need to be, so I didn't want him there. I knew I had a kid who didn't need to be in that type of structured environment. He would learn better on his own. That's what I wanted to do. And I have an only child, so I get so much time with him, and I didn't want to give up that time with somebody else. I didn't want to give control to anybody else. I've got this one kid, I got this one chance. I want to be involved in it, and I love it. I mean, I learn with him. There's things that I learn now that I'm like, I never knew that. So I'm his teacher, I'm his mother, but I'm just as much almost sometimes I'm his classmate. I'm like, why did they do that for? Let's learn.
Yeah.
It's just so much. If you can do it, don't let fear stop you from doing it. Do it. You can do it, you know, especially if you have a kid that it's easy for. One kid is so much easier. I know that. Mom did it with 3, so it can be done. But if you can do it, do it. I'm such a pro for it. And he has friends that are, and it's so great. I just couldn't imagine making him stay 8 hours.
You know, once you get into that mode, like the commitment that you made though to do it is a big thing. Okay, it's not to be taken lightly. You made a big commitment. And you know, and I think he's moved. And this is the thing people run into. They talk about, well, I don't want to homeschool my kid because I want him the social environment. Well, there's so much social environment I would not want him to be in.
Exactly.
I'm worried to death now about even when I think about him going to college. And I think about Caleb going to college, and John Colson will probably own a college. It won't matter with him. I mean, I can imagine. That's a whole nother subject. But, you know, when I think about that, and I think about him winding up some liberal college, which are bunch of idiots, I worry about that, and I think about it. And
well, then so much of it, like I know a lot of the teachers local, they are like good people, but they are not making the choices in that classroom. They are not choosing what rules are being followed. Somebody else is, and they have to follow it. I know teachers that have problem with the things they have to do in school, but they don't have a choice. So it's not a knock on teachers, because they're not the one making the final choices the way I see it. And a lot of the times, like, would you let your kid be friends with somebody if you didn't like them, or you didn't like the way they acted, or you knew it was a bad kid, or they cussed every other second, this kid in you know, middle school? Would you let your kid? No, you wouldn't let them be friends with them. But what do you do when they're in school and they're in the seat next to them and they're exposed to that day after day? Now, like, I've heard of there being fights, like, constantly. One, there was fight in the lunchroom and in the art room in the same day. This kid had the same lunch and the same, and then you still have to go to school on top of all that stress and all that going on. How is it possible to learn in that type of environment where fights are breaking out, literally, like in the same day? Like two separate people.
I agree, and I think, you know, we made that choice early on to homeschool your kids and private school you and homeschool you, because we wanted to be able to control that environment best we could, and I think it's been a great success.
Some people look at it as being like, oh, they're too sheltered, they're sheltered. What's a shelter do? It protects you. If it's raining and there's a storm, the shelter protects you. When the storm is gone and you can handle it, you go out of the shelter and you're in the world. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to send my 13-year-old out to hear nonsense and, you know, hear cussing and people bringing blades to school and stuff like that. I'm not supposed to send my 13-year-old into there. They're not ready to handle that. He's not ready to have to make the discernment between this person's my friend, but it also cusses every 5 seconds and does all these things. I'm supposed to shelter him until he can make those choices and be ready, you know? I don't shelter him to the sense of he doesn't see people. My kid is exposed. Most of his friends are adults. You know what I mean? Like, and he has tons of friends that are his age that I can say, and a lot of people talk about this generation. That's one of my sticking points, and you know it. I can't stand it, because every generation has an idiot, okay? Every generation has some just ding-dongs. It happens. But so many of his friends I've seen where I'm like, man, they are better kids than I was when I was 13. You know, like, just, and even seeing the way they talk to each other, like, it's just, I don't think this generation's that much of a problem. You know, I think people need to maybe look around. Every generation, there's problems. I mean, when I was growing up, people were getting kidnapped like crazy. That's a generational problem, okay? Every generation has a thing. But if you really pay attention, there's some kids, these kids are more, I don't know, emotionally advanced than we were. You know, like, I see them talk about stuff where it's, you're 13-year-old boys, y'all talk about that? And they do, and they're kind to each other, and like, they're sensitive with each other in a way, like, there's a lot of benefits to them, this generation.
The only downfall I see, the only pitfall
There's always
I see
one.
is girlfriends and boyfriends, okay? Because, man, I was in love. By the time I was 13, I was in love probably 10 or 12 times. And I know you were. I won't even go into some of those situations. But, I mean, you know, but I think that's the age that we're in that's different than even when you grow up. There's something I see now when it comes to this boy-girl relationship that's different than it was when I was growing up and when you were growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and I don't know why. I don't understand.
I've noticed it's more okay for boys and girls to be friends now. Like, that's one thing I've really noticed. Like, growing up, I was friends with a lot of guys because, I mean, Colson was my main person I hung out with every day, so I hung out with his friends, and that's what I did. I mean, most of my friends were guys, and that was such a novel thing to all my friends. Like, most of my close friends were guys. They just were because that's what I was around. Colson could drive. I was his shadow. I went where he went. And it was always weird to a lot of people. But now I've noticed, like, Carter has a friend that's a girl, and they just perfect friendship. And they all are friends, and it's not a weird thing. It's just more normal. And I like that because then you can really be friends with a girl, too. And you can be girlfriend later on. But I like that it's more normal now. Yeah. I noticed that a lot. Even when he was in school, the girls and the boys, they were friends. It wasn't always a, you like them. Of course, that's in there. But it's not as bad now, you know?
Yeah, I don't like that.
You don't like it. I love it. As a girl who was mostly friends with guys, I love it that now it's not like, oh, she hangs around with guys. It's normal now. Like, we can be friends with everybody. Like,
I still like it.
I like it.
I mean, I stopped it when I was in.
I think you can't have a girlfriend until you have a friend that's a girl because you don't know nothing about a girl.
Right.
Okay, we're a whole different species. We're a whole different thing, all right? So, but if you have a friend that's a girl, you're like, I can maybe hone in a little bit on some of these signals and learn a little bit about it. That's what I told Carter.
I don't think they think about that.
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, I bought engagement rings
but see,
when I was in the 4th and 5th grade.
That's because anytime you were friends with a girl and you were like, I like her personality, your brain went, I must be in love.
You had to.
You weren't in love.
I was.
Maybe you were just friends.
No, I was in love. I was in love. No. I'm telling you, I can remember being in love so many times. I don't remember their names now. But I was in love.
Maybe you were just friends. Maybe you were just friends. Maybe you were just friends.
I was head over heels.
Was she in love? Because I can tell you from experience, sometimes you think they are, but
she wrote me notes and said she loved me. And said, I love John, I love you. Will you be my boyfriend?
See, that's what you should do. See, that's one of the things I teach Carter.
I had to check the mark.
No. In this modern world, see, you had it on a piece of paper. I tell him, do not write, and it's hard to live up to, okay? It's like top tier thing to live.
Right.
Don't write anything in a chat, in a text, in an email, in a pigeon carrier that you wouldn't want printed on a billboard with your picture next to it. I said, because you may think, oh, if I delete it after I send it, it's not gone. It's there forever, you know?
And I believe there is the issue that we're running into because there's a lot of stuff I said that's not recorded when I was a boy growing up.
See, I'm on the tip of that. There's some stupid stuff I did that is recorded, you know? So I'm right on the edge of that.
And
I
remember some of it.
Yeah, and then, that memory doesn't matter. That's he say, she say, so. But his stuff, it's forever. And I try to just speak that into him as much as possible. Like, it's not gone, and it's not. Put it on there like it's going to be seen with your picture next to it. Would you be proud? Like,
I used to have a girl that I really was fond of. Her name was Shooting Star on the CB. Okay, because we called her Shooting Star, and my name was what was it on the CB? It was I'll remember it in a minute. It was, but anyway, she was Shooting Star, and I would, I really loved her, and I can't really remember a lot about her now, but I used to go see her. But I would talk to her on the CB. I would talk to her on the CB. We would talk to each other, hello, and we would talk to each other on the CB. I can't remember what I went.
Somewhere out there, Shooting Stars watch this and goes, that's me. I'm Shooting Star. Sir. Maybe you and Shooting Star were just meant to be friends.
Did I tell you about the girlfriend I had that I thought was dead? There was a girl.
While you were dating her or now?
Well, no, it was afterwards. Okay. But anyway, I hadn't seen her in a long time. I was married to your mom, I believe, at that point anyway. But I was at a funeral, okay, and someone said her name, said she wants to know, she wanted to talk to you. And I said, ooh. I thought she was dead.
That Ouija board.
I thought she was dead, okay? Anyway, so she came back and started talking to me, and I told her, I thought you were dead. I said.
How did she respond to that?
Okay, she started laughing, and her husband was standing there, okay? He come up because he didn't want her to be alone with an old boyfriend. Yeah. And so anyway, so he started talking to me, and he said, let me tell you what happened to me. And he told me, he said, I got a new Harley one time. He said, and I got it, brought it home, and we was out in the yard and stuff like that. He said, I got it like at 12 o'clock that day, and I got my insurance on it and everything set up. He said, and about 3 o'clock, we're all sitting out in the yard. She's getting ready to go to the grocery store. She gets in the truck, I'm sitting on the Harley, and she thought the truck was in drive, but it was in reverse, and she run over top of me. And the Harley, tore it all to pieces, totaled the Harley with the truck.
That's a big hump, but she
And
gunned
he
it.
said, I had to get I just got my insurance that day and totaled it a couple hours later.
Oh, my
And he was telling me all the story about him. And I said, buddy, there's only one thing I got to say to you. And he said, what? I said, I'm glad you got her instead of me.
Yeah. She had to have gunned it to make it
she
fully
run
over
you know, like
top.
when you think you're going to pull out, you just sort of pull out, you know, you just go. And she run over him, almost killed him.
I don't know that I've ever pulled out hard enough to run
Almost
over a whole
killed him.
human and motorcycle at the same time.
It was really something.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
know.
one of your better drivers of children.
Yeah, you really are a
So,
good driver.
I don't really have
You
that
know,
problem.
Colson's a good driver for something big, something small. He's scary, but
What scares me about Colson is we'll be driving, okay, and everyone knows how many deers Colson has
Right.
hit with that vehicle, multiple, okay. We'll be driving, I'm like, oh, a deer, and he's like, where? A few minutes down the road, I'm like, oh, a deer, where? He's colorblind, but he's also deer blind, okay.
Right,
he
right.
cannot see a deer for nothing, or he'll run off the road, and instead of being like, oopsie, he'll go, I meant to do that. You meant to run off the road? Why? You know, like. Terrifies
he
me to
is
death.
scary.
I'll run off the road, but I'm like, oh, whoop, that was a close one, you know? Like,
Yeah.
He just acts like it was all on purpose. It's all a part of his plan. I guess that's his calm nature we were talking about. He's like, I meant to do it. Everything's fine. Like, it's not. Or when you're with him and he's about to fall asleep driving and you know
Right.
he is and you're begging him, I'm a licensed driver. I can drive this vehicle. And he will not let you drive for
No.
nothing.
no.
It's
You know,
terrifying.
I liked you and everything growing up. I
That's
really
good to
did.
know.
I
That's
liked
good
you and
to know.
stuff. I mean, I
We-
really did like you.
How
but,
old am I, 34?
but I
No.
don't know. Who knows? Who knows? how-
Carter knows.
but I remember when you left home finally. When you left home. And,
Okay, I was 18. Let's
Yeah.
be clear about that.
But
I
I
was
mean,
18 when I moved out.
But I mean, we bought you multiple vehicles and a lot of things for you. You know, waiting on you.
One.
Waiting
Oh,
you,
two.
It seemed, yeah,
Right
two.
before, yeah.
Before you were 18.
I didn't like the second one though. It's not my fault.
Before
I
you're
told I
18,
didn't
you got
like
new
it.
vehicles. But anyway, but you were driving. Now your mom's got a real good heart. Okay, she's really, at times, she's very mean, but she's got a good heart. But when you were driving,
It's
you
candy-coated.
pulled out of the driveway on Hill Street where we lived, and you was in the little black truck.
Little Black Ranger,
And,
baby truck.
You know, and your little head was in the window. I could see the back of your head as you pulled out. You know, and me and your mom are standing in the driveway. You know, and you pulled out, and you were leaving home for good. And your mom's crying. She's, you know, because she's real.
Real emotional.
She really likes y'all. She
Yeah.
always liked the kids.
Yeah, she's a fan.
And you know, y'all were. So
We're almost like family to her.
so you pulled out. You were going. Your little head. I remember like it's yesterday. Your little head was in the back of the window. I could see it in that window. She's crying, and I looked at her and I said, "This is affecting me and you totally different."
I did the same thing. After their wedding, we had to go back up to the house because I had a few more stuff I had to get from
Right.
the house. I had to get my TV because I
Right.
do have to have that, you know. I had to go get up my few stuff, and I remember in my room, and I started crying. I had my wedding makeup on. I cried my eyelashes off, and Andrew was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "This is the last time I'm going to be home." And he said, "I thought you were having like second thoughts." You were like, I was like, "No, it was just." I hadn't thought about it
Right.
at all until that moment. I remember crying, eyelashes stuck on my cheeks. It was a mess. So I had the same feeling, you know.
I don't know. I mean, I liked you. Don't
But
get
then
me
I
wrong.
just waited a couple years and bought the house.
Yes,
So now I'm back home.
Yeah, same thing.
Turns out it was just the house, not y'all.
But you kids were different in that respect. I mean, Morgan was like a wild banshee. But I mean, you know, when you left and you had a plan and you know, you got all tricked old Andrew and everything
Tricked
come
him
together,
good.
okay? Colson was so hard to get to leave.
Yeah,
It was really.
Well, he had his own little apartment down there. He had a pool table.
Yeah.
Why would he
He
leave?
didn't. He just wouldn't leave, you know. And we kept trying to tell him to leave. We
He had
said,
a pool table in his own entrance.
Right.
You
right.
weren't doing a good job.
But he wouldn't leave. I remember finally we had a house for him. He had
Yeah.
his own house, and we said, you need to go to your house. You need to leave, and because he was the last one.
But it's okay because I went down with him. He went
Right.
down in about a little less than a year later. I moved into the house next
Right.
door, so he just was waiting on me.
Yeah, it was-
you know, we did everything together.
It was just really sad. But for the way we got him to leave finally, because Colson is a procrastinator. Our son is. He would
Yeah.
puts every when
Just wait. You don't have to do that right now. We don't need to do it right now.
when
Not
the
right
rapture
now.
takes place, he'll be
Yeah.
the last one off the ground.
Yeah.
And we'd say, you need to go. He said, well, you know, it's close to the holidays. and I don't want to do a lot of stuff in the holidays. And then it would be after the holidays, and he would say, well, it's spring.
It's spring.
You know what I mean? I don't want to move right now. We don't go. Then it's summer. It was too hot.
It's too hot to move boxes.
Finally, one day, we called and got the power turned on. We got the cable turned on, water turned on in his house, everything turned on. And then we come to him and sit down. I said, now listen, son, you need to leave our home. We want you not to be here anymore. We love you. You know what I mean? And we really, but I mean, you're the last one.
And you let him take my cat when he went.
Yeah, we would have gave him anything.
Took my cat.
It wouldn't make no difference.
The cat never loved me, but still, it was mine. As soon as we got the cat, it ran to Colson's room, and it was like, this is my human forever.
It did. What happened to that cat?
Did they give it just because Chris had allergies?
Yeah.
Who got it? I can't remember who got it.
No.
They shaved the cat. They shaved the cat, right?
Yeah.
That's a correct memory, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
They tried to bathe the cat. They tried to shave the cat. They tried everything they could to keep the cat, but they couldn't.
You know, it didn't make no sense. Chris said that they always bathed cats, but I never heard of bathing a cat in my whole life.
I have a cat, and I've never bathed him.
Chris
Actually, you know what? I did last year. I did give him a bath because I thought, well, let's give it a try. He hated it.
Chris said they bathe them all the time. I've never heard of bathing. But anyway, Colson.
They're self-cleaning.
We got. They're like them ovens.
I mean, you may need to wash their face every now and then, but other than that, like. It's like the microwave. You just shut it and you let it take care of itself. Don't listen, Mom.
When he did leave, he finally did leave us, okay? And, just did leave us because, and it wasn't because he was a problem. It's just because at that point in our life, I wanted to, and he would, if I come in, he would give me the remote to the TV.
Yeah.
You know, he said, you can watch whatever you want. And I said, but I don't want to have to choose. I want my shoes to be in the same place when I leave.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to come in and say, hey, give me the remote, but I have to do that with your mom now.
Yeah, you
But
do.
I mean,
Are you getting her a house with the power cut on? It's too cold. She can't move. It's winter.
The thought has crossed my mind. But I don't know, man. I think about stuff growing up. I think about the things that you kids have been through and the stages in life you've been through and how much fun we've really had.
Yeah.
We could get how blessed beyond measure, out of our control, the things in our life and that have been done and taken care of for us.
Yeah.
Gee.
A lot of stuff.
Gee, I don't know. All right. Do you remember a time when you felt truly supported and encouraged?
Oh, I got you on that one.
But how did it, in affecting your confidence, is that what brought you to the point, this confidence that you have?
Yeah, I mean, you and Mom, there was never a second thought of, will I be, because it wasn't like, oh, my parents are here. Duh, they're here.
Right.
Duh, they came.
Right.
Because you and Mom were always, and then I've carried that over, I think, with Carter, too, of just love and support of, I'm here, no duh. It's not a big deal. And I've always felt that way. Anything weird I had to do, y'all backed me up.
Right.
Even with when I moved, if I needed something, y'all were there. When we moved again, you were there. When we moved again, you were there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even down to the night that I went to the hospital and had Carter.
Yeah.
You and Mom went with us. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like, oh, if you can, if it's not too much trouble. I've always known I'm supported. I've always known.
I think it's what we don't support our kids when they're plumb idiots, and you kids weren't. You were always, I never had no big issue.
No.
The peculiar thing about you, though, was so different than these other two kids. Was you would set your mom and I straight sometimes. You would leave us notes on our pillow of what we needed to change.
You're welcome.
It was beautiful. I mean, I wish I really kept those notes.
That's how I roll now.
I mean, it was just, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I tell people about it sometimes. I say, Dale, whenever I'm talking to a friend of mine who has a daughter.
Advice book.
Yeah, has a daughter, I say, now listen, I had one that used to set us straight all the time, but now it's okay. They love you. They're there, but it's just different.
You've got to hear the review to know how you're doing, okay? And I tell Andrew all the time whenever he tells me, oh, don't do this, don't fuss him. I say, hey, if you wanted a better review from the audience, you should have put on a better show,
Exactly.
okay? The review is the review. You don't get a fuss about it, And that's one thing with, Carter. I'm very... I don't know, I guess I'm a hippie new age person of this type of way. And I don't know if it's just because he's an only child or whatever it is, but I very much listen to okay, yeah, you know what, Carter, I messed up there. Or yes, listen, I'm getting grouchy and I'm getting carried away. I try to be willing to admit, yeah, I'm getting out of pocket. You know what I mean? It takes a minute, but I'm also very forward with him. We tell him sometimes, Carter, please fight the teenager in you. Fight it right now. It's happening. Because we make it a very open thing. We don't really, and yeah, he's just 13, so I know I got plenty of years left, but we're very open about the emotions in our house. Like, we're like, hey, are you really, does the world really terrible and awful, or you just maybe need a snack? Like, we're very upfront to emotions in our house. Talk about it.
You didn't get that from me.
No.
I wasn't up for emotionally.
No, y'all are very much like, if you're in a bad mood, go to your room and deal with it and come back out when you're not. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess it's the era.
And it was normal. It wasn't like then I was like, my parents are oppressing my emotions. No, it was just normal. You know what I mean? But now I'm like, no, you don't get to leave because you're mad. Sit down in this chair until we're not mad anymore. Like, that's how we roll. Like, you do not leave a room. And also, it's not like we ever leave a room. You ever heard the saying of you bedroom parent or a living room parent? We're living room people, okay? If we're all home, we're all together. We're very much a unit, we're together. If we're home and we're not all three in the same room, we're hollering for the other person. Where are you at? Why are you not in here? What's wrong? Like, we're always together. Like,
and I think I don't know. I think about these. I think about coming up. Here's a question I was thinking about. Okay, are you things from your own upbringing that you intentionally tried to carry over to your parenting, or things that you choose to do differently?
There's, things that I carry a lot of stuff over because of our friends group. Me and Andrew are very much we're old school, we're traditional. We call spade a spade, a sin a sin. We don't mix no words with that stuff, you know? And so I carried that over. I remember you and Mom used to always tell us, like, you are who you hang out with.
Right.
And I was talking to Andrew about it. I said, I when I was younger, I felt like that meant, if you're with people that are not good, then people are going to think you're not good because it's going to hurt your reputation. Like, that was all it was just appearance-wise. If you're hanging out with bad, you look bad. But as I got older, I started to learn it's not just you look that way, it gets in you. And like another famous quote of Mom was garbage in, garbage out. Right. It's the same thing. If you're around negative people, people that are cussing every word, it becomes so normal to you and it gets into you and it gets normalized to you. And so we're very harsh with Carter to we're not going to normalize sin. We're not going to normalize this. Know who you are, know whose you are, hang out with the right group because it's not just the way it looks. You become like your friends, and praise the Lord, so far, he's done very good with his friends' choices. They're very good kids, Who you are, who you're with. And that's one thing that I've definitely carried over. I've put that into him repeatedly. Yeah. Something I do different. I guess we do. We talk about the emotions all the time. We're very much, and not to an ad nauseum of and how does it make you feel? We're not like a therapy session, but if somebody's extra grouchy, we're like, hey, you're extra grouchy. Why are you grouchy? Talk about it. Get it? Because then you're laughing by the end of it, and or I can say, hey, I'm going to be in a bad mood today. Get out of the way. We address them. Yeah. But I guess I don't turn the lights on Saturday morning and scream and yell and make him wake up early. I don't do that, so that's different. You used to do that to Colson more than me.
He still hates it.
But other than that, we're very traditional. I don't think there's anything from my childhood where I'm like, I'll never do that with my kids. Right. There was a lot that I wanted to emulate. Right. The not normal childhood and things like that.
All right. When I think about, you grew up with one of the challenges that some people are in.
Rise and shine. See, she's coming in singing.
Janice used to sing that song.
I do sing that to Carter on school mornings. Let's rise and shine and give God the glory. And then you have to clap really loud. I do. It's probably not a good thing to bring your child to wrath over that song.
It's really bad.
It's a good time.
You grew up the daughter of a pastor more than the Colson big lump in it, but but you grew up a child of a pastor and a minister, and that was a big,
a church pastor too. That's a different. There's different vibes of that, and preachers' kids are a different breed. We're just different.
It really, what do you think? How did it make you stronger?
I would say it made me stronger because growing up in church, you get to see a lot of different things. You know what I mean? You see the good people and you see the people coming to help. And I seen you and Mom help a lot of people that other people would not. We used to have drunks on the steps of the church, and most people would have told them to leave, but I saw you tell them, well, just move over so we can get up the stairs. You know what I mean? So I saw that of being kind to people most people wouldn't be kind to. It doesn't hurt you to be kind to them. But I also saw the bad part. I saw the gossip. I saw people come up and say mean things to you, and I just saw you go that's okay, bud. That's all right. And so I really tried to, I even tell Andrew that it don't hurt you nothing for them to feel the way they feel or for them to be in a bad mood. You can just say, how about that? And move on about your day because it doesn't affect you, you know? Yeah. And I really learned that from you, Mom, because there was times I saw people say stuff to you and I was like, let me just get up from here. You said, what did my daddy? You know, but I watched you just be like, and I was like, what's wrong with you? Right. You know, it wasn't until I got older where I realized it wasn't something that's so outlandish. Yeah. There's no point to respond to. Right. You know what I mean? And I saw that a lot growing up. You know,
I think the situation I've shared with some other pastors before is when we're anointed to do something, okay, but your family's not. In my respect, I don't believe they are. And when you're anointed for somebody to take in a little abuse and stuff like that, I wouldn't let nobody hit me in the nose.
No.
But when you're...
You took the verbal very well.
Yeah, I mean, the verbal part I could take, but I mean, but your family takes it a little different. And, you know, they would take it to heart. And I think that's... And I'll share with you what I've shared, and I shared this with Steve Branch, and I've shared with Barry Absher. I never honestly, I never wanted you kids to go into the ministry.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you had, or God called you for it, if He does tomorrow, I mean, you know, I'm there for you. We'll get us a tent and go on the road. Okay. Oh, glory to God. We'll get us a bus.
Yeah.
But
now it sounds like.
But I didn't, you know, because. And I'm not whining about no kind of abuse. I didn't feel like I was abused, but you felt like there was a lot of times that I guess what you felt like is the human part, you felt like you weren't appreciated. And that sort of bothered you a little bit. And it bothered that human part, not that God part of you.
Yeah.
But that anointed part, you felt like you weren't appreciated because you can't not feel that at times. And I never wanted you guys to feel like you weren't appreciated and you weren't supported.
Yeah.
Okay? And when I looked at you, I mean, I want y'all to serve the Lord, or I would say, God, get them ready and take them home. But I mean, the thing about it is I didn't want to, I never really said, oh, God, call my children into the ministry.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm just being honest, that's the way I felt.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think it taught us it taught me to serve without an expectation. Like, you were doing all that for the church, and like, we were doing it right alongside you.
Right.
But there was Pastor's Appreciation Day, but there wasn't Pastor's Family Appreciation Day. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but it didn't matter. You know what I mean? We were doing it because we were supposed to, and it's the right thing. And I think back, there was a couple years ago a time I was volunteering, and I was putting massive amounts of my own resources, time, everything into it. Right. And at the time, it felt like I was being appreciated, valued, supported, and then leadership changed, and just like that, all that went with it. All of a sudden, I wasn't doing squat, and it didn't matter. And I was like, you know, it took me a while to reset, but then I had to go, you know what? I can feel proud of what I did.
Right.
No matter what anybody says, no matter how ugly they got afterwards, I feel proud of what I did. I know I did good work, and I know I was surrounded by people that felt like I did good work. Even through the ugly and the yuck, you have to find the good people in it. And I think that's what it taught me, was to serve without the expectation of here, because your reward doesn't come from God. From here, it comes from God. You know, I call it fool's gold whenever you want reward from men. It comes from God. You got to serve without it, and that's a hard place to get to, because it's real. That's real Bible-y to say your reward's in heaven. You know, do not look for it. It really is real life. Because if you do everything and then you turn around, and you're like, anybody can tell me a good job? I'll just wait here till somebody tells a good job. You're going to be disappointed. Then you're going to be disheartened. You're going to be like, well, I'm not going to do a good job because nobody cares. Nobody wants it. That's not. Are you proud of you? Go on. Yeah. Don't look around for it, because it's not. It's not what it's about. Sometimes it will, and that's nice when it does. Right. But
I think when you find your strength in obedience. You know, I've had several times in my life that I've had things that if I find it not in the response of others, but in the obedience to God.
Yeah.
And what I looked at is I could take the lack of appreciation, but I didn't want you all to go through that.
Yeah.
And so when I looked at it and I thought about it in my heart, and again, if God called you, He'd be the one that called you.
Yeah.
But I didn't want you to feel unsupported or lack of appreciated, and I just didn't want that. Now, I'm a believer in this with children. I believe there should be a certain amount of struggle in their life in order for them to be strong. Okay, and I've said that with you kids. I mean, you know,
it shapes you.
I want you to have that. When it comes to you and Andrew and y'all's life and what you do, you know what you have to do with your finances, with your family. family, with raising your children, but I've tried to let you kids free range and handle that stuff, because if I step in, then you don't grow and you don't get strong and you don't get smarter. I've got to let you have your own struggles in order to be strong.
That's what we've talked. Me and Andrew talked about it before. He's talked about, oh well, we should have done this, should have done this. I said, but we did what we did with what we knew. That's all you can do. You do what you do, what you know, and then when you know better, you do better. But you can't ever know better if you don't take the test, learn the lesson, study the material. You know what I mean? If you never come up against it, you never have a chance to go, oh, hey, hold on, I've been here before. I made that mistake. Let's do this time. It's sucky to be like, you got to mess up to learn. But you do kind of have to sometimes. You have to at least come up against it to be able to make the right choice.
Like buying vehicles.
Oh,
okay, I mean,
that's not my lesson.
If we could learn early on in life, you know what I mean, to wear it out. You know what I mean, to wear
till
out.
Till the wheels fall off.
See, and that, but we go through it. Your mom and I used to when they come out with something new, if it was a caravan or something they come out with, your mom and I we'd go buy a vehicle, we'd buy this, buy that, and we laughed about. We talked about regrets the other day. I said, what are some regrets? She said, I regret we bought so many vehicles, and because we could have been thousandaires if we hadn't bought so many vehicles, But
it was so fun growing up.
Oh, yeah.
It was so fun.
We had everything.
It was so fun.
It was just,
we had the Doom buggy. And then you had the Army Jeep.
All right. Real Army Jeep.
Real Army Jeep.
Not
had
no
all
fake.
The stuff on
yeah,
it. Yeah,
not no fake
Army Jeep. Like the ammo and everything.
I mean, I've had so many Jeeps.
It's not a regret. That's a memory. It was a memory you were buying, like the 3-wheeler.
Yeah. I've had everything.
See, it's a memory, And like I did the same thing. Like we bought a camper.
Yeah, right.
And we're a camper family. Everybody, loves a camper. I am the black sheep of the family with a camper. I didn't want a camper. I hated a camper. Nothing to do with it. We had to live in Pennsylvania for Andrew to work, and it was just the only way. Right. Everybody had a camper, so we bought one. So if I talk about a regret, I cannot. I hated that camper. I'm so glad it's gone now. And it was every sign said, don't buy that camper. Right. Beautiful camper, but I hated it. And we just didn't use it enough. And then when we weren't there, it was in the way. Yeah. But I can look back to like memories we made in the camper and like stuff we did. Right. So there's regrets, but there's also like, well, I wouldn't have had this if I didn't do that. Right. And now I can firmly say I don't want a camper. Right. Like I learned the lesson from the camper. Right. I've learned my lesson. I firmly do not want another camper.
One of the things about the camper too, I knew the camper y'all had some issues. Okay.
Just a few.
So,
just a few.
And one of the things Andrew always wanted was if we would pull it up on the hill and let the wind blow it and total it out and roll it down the hill. Okay, he always wanted to. He said, "I want to park this camper where the wind will blow it away and tear it up." Yeah. So, and it never would happen. No. The wind would blow everything else. And 50 feet from that camper, I had one totaled because of the wind, but it
so
never
mad.
would. It never would.
I remember when you called me and you told me it blew the camper. I was like, "Is it like total?" And you were like, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, lucky." Like that was just my first response. Was like, "Ah," which wasn't for you because you wanted your camper, but I was so jealous. Yeah. And mine was just sitting there. I know, like, I'm still here.
Andrew said that camper's still there.
Still there. They had all its issues, but it just wouldn't go away. It grew mushrooms.
Yeah, it was a strange camper.
And there was no water leak. You think, okay, well, there was water. It was always dry. There was no water, just mushrooms. And you could pick the mushroom out of the carpet, and another mushroom would be there the next morning.
So it was a regret.
Yeah.
It was a regret.
It's a mushroom regret is what it was, okay?
Okay. All right. If you could speak to your younger self, or if you could speak to your younger self, what would be some things as you look at challenges or some things in life you said, man, if I could speak back and tell Kelsey, hey, Kelsey, watch out for this and do this a little bit different. Is there anything?
I mean, I guess it would just be like what you and Mom told me. I wish I would have realized it sooner. The company you keep, the friends you keep. If that friend feels like they're off and they're not, then probably no. Just your gut, your instinct is usually right. You don't need that friend. It's okay. They're not, and it sounds snooty, snotty, whatever to say, but there's certain people that are not your caliber of people. Right. They're just not. And it's just the way it is. They're not, and whether that be they're not at the point in your life that you are, maybe one day they will be, they're not your caliber right now. Move on. And everybody's a season. Like you've said that so many times growing up. To everything is a season. It's really true. There is friendships are for seasons, friend groups are for seasons, things like that. it's a real thing.
Yeah, and people say that friends for everything, but I think people come into your life for a season, and they come in, enjoy them, and they're with them.
The important thing too is not to look at just because when the friendship's over, be like, well, it was always a terrible, they were no good. No, like I've had friends that I'm not friends with now, but it doesn't mean I look back on our whole friendship and I'm like, that was terrible, and they're not. No, great times, awesome times, wonderful, packed memories, but we've grown apart. You're doing yours, I'm doing mine. God bless you, Godspeed. But you don't have to mingle back in. You don't have to.
Yeah, that is. It's. I don't know. It's funny when you think about that people will come into your life, and then there's some people you think are really neat, but then after you get to fooling with them a little while, you think this is a ding dong. You know what I mean?
That's like the situation where I was talking about like volunteering. Like I had people that I worked alongside every single day. You know what I mean? Like, and I thought, this is the best person I've ever met.
Right.
Like, how are you such a good person? Like, you are an inspiration. This is amazing. And then it was like I was looking at him with the side lamp cut on, and somebody came in the room and put the overhead light on, and it was like, ooh, no, you are a mess. Like, that's what happened. And I can still look back and know that I did learn valuable things, and I can look at that. But when that overhead light comes on and you look at people in the harsh light, that fluorescent light comes on, all of a sudden, no, I can see clearly.
But I think though there's a part of you that's similar to me with people. We're very long suffering, and there's people that will come into our life that we that we'll brag on and feel like they're really something else, and we do that and we go along with them. And your mom says I make excuses for Charles Manson.
You do?
But I just do. I don't know. I really like to go out a long ways with people sometimes and give them a little bit of rope and try to work with them. I try to take my foot off their neck and let them breathe when other people are trying to choke them out.
See, there's some ways though like that, like growing up, that's one thing I tell Andrew all the time that you did. You would make excuses for people and be nice to people. Sometimes that it was to the point it was like, Dad, we're done here, So I usually go into things of like, you're going to have to prove to me that I like you, that you're a good person. Like I go into things negative and then you can come up, but we're not going to start here and then go down. Like, because I watched you so many times where it was like, Dad, that person's not good. No. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, well, they just had a hard time. And that's true sometimes, but sometimes the hard time, what else I've told you before, the hard times they put on themselves. The hard life, it was because they chose bad things and made their life hard. Yes, there's people who are victims of things, and sometimes you're a victim of your own self. Like, your own stupid choices. Like, and everyone has it every now and then, but it's the ones who have their whole life being a victim of their own choice, where I'm like, that sandpaper person part of me comes out, and I'm like, no,
I know. I had a guy, I had a guy got out of jail several times, and I got him out of jail several times, and got him new teeth one time. I done some things one time, and I had several experiences with him, but there were several fascinating things that were fascinating to me because I just assumed. One time he had borrowed a paint sprayer off of me, a big Wagner paint sprayer, and then he went back to jail over some things, and then he got out of jail. And he called me, and he said, I got something I think you can use that you'd be interested in. And I said, sure. Well, he come in with that paint sprayer that he borrowed from me before he went to jail. And he said,
you should have kept it long.
He said, man, this is a good paint sprayer. He said, it's really something, and told me how long you had it and where you got it from. And I knew where you got it from me. Okay. But anyway, so he priced it to me, like $100 or something like that. And he said, I'll take $100 for it. And I said, well, okay. So I gave him $100 for it. And so your mom said, wasn't that your paint sprayer? I said, yeah. She said, you just bought it back. I said, yeah, but I gave almost $500 for it the first time I bought it. So this is a deal.
It's broke in now, too.
This is a deal, and I bought it off of him, but I was fascinated. And then he went back to jail again. I took him to Mexico one time with me between going to jail.
These are those stories.
Heck of a preacher, but he just wasn't right, and he had multiple personalities. And
one of them was a good preacher.
Most of them were bad.
One of them was a convict.
Yeah, he was
with the bad.
Yeah, but he come back, and he got out of jail. Come back. He said, he was a gypsy. He was a half gypsy. So I let him live in one of our houses, the one that I live in now. Okay?
No, it was the one that I moved into.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, anyway, I moved him in a house. Oh, yeah, it was. I moved him in a house and bought his groceries and his hair dye and got him all, anyway. So he said, if I had.
In the background to all this, your whole entire family was going, "What
Yeah, they're all
you doing?"
So anyway, I'm just trying my best. So anyway, he said if I had one of those asphalt sealers, I could really make a lot of money. We could do good together. He said we could. I said, well, okay. So I bought one of them big tandem with a 1,000-tank asphalt sealer, and I bought a pickup truck, Chevrolet pickup truck, pull it with, and
I feel like I blocked this part out.
Let him use it. Well, about 4 or 5 months in, I hadn't really made money or nothing like that. He disappeared with my truck and my trailer and all of his clothes.
Who saw that coming?
So he's gone. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I done got out of jail 4 or 5 times and went and seen him in prison. You know what I mean? Put money on his book. Okay, and so anyway, he called me.
You're one of those women who are in that relationship where they're like, why won't she leave him?
So he called me up. He called me up from wherever he was, and he said, I got the truck, and, I want to apologize. I said, here's the deal. I said, let me do this. Give me your address, and I'm going to send you the title to the truck and the asphalt sealer, and I'm going to give them to you.
Does he still have them?
But I never want to see you again. I said, here's the deal. I said, I feel like I've done my duty, and God bless you. And, then he got telling me what a rascal I was, and I said, now some of that's true. Not all of it's true. All the bad things you say about me are not true. But I said, I am a little rough around the edges. Not all of that, though.
All of it.
But I said, so he gave me his address, and I sent him the title, sent him everything. I said, I just never want to see you again.
See, that's one of those stories like I'm talking about, growing up in church and seeing the way people would just snap and go off on you over something, and you would just be like, oh, how about that? That's okay, buddy. It's okay. And I'm sitting there going,
I just wanted to be done.
What? I can see that now, that it was a response, you know what I mean, just to be out of it. But growing up, it was like.
I remember Colson, we seen him several months later at Lowe's, and seen him, and Colson looked at me and said, do you want me to whip him down?
See?
He said, do you want me to whip him for you? I said, no.
But that was our role. You said you didn't want us to feel not support. We didn't want you to know. We were your support, okay? We were your little bouncers. That was our job.
And I thought to myself, no. I said, we don't have no contact with him. Let's just leave him alone. I don't want to, because then we'll become.
I don't want to have to give him another $500 or a truck again.
I remember one time I had a guy that needed. Most of our church, we would take $20 in the offering on the church service, and I'd give out $50 by the end of the night, because people need gas money, and it's those who have to give.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I had a guy one time that come, and he needed help on his house payment. He said, I need a little help on my house payment. If you can help me, Brother Dash. And I said, well, all right. And it was $400 or something like that. And I said, okay. So I helped him. And he said, come back next month. He said, I'm still close this month. Can you help me one more time? I said, why, sure. Because I had to give. There it was. And then, come back the third month, and he said, can you help me one more time? And I said, I said, I can help you. I've got the money, but I'm not going to give it to you. Mm-hmm. He said, well, I understand if you don't have it. I said, no, I got it in my pocket. But I just don't think I should give it to you again.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, then you got to tell me what a rascal I was. You know what I mean?
Every time you turn it down.
It set me straight.
Yeah.
And I preached a message on it called Offended to Reality. That we are never in reality sometimes until we become offended.
Yeah.
And when I said no, and I began to think about times with us with the Lord. And does the Lord ever say no and we don't hear it when we're asking Him to do something for us? We're asking God to do this and change that person and make that person move?
I got stuck in that, praying and be like, oh, God, will you do this? But if it's not what you want to do, you don't. You just do what you want to do, but I would like you to do this. But if it's not, and then it was so long in prayer life of I was like, all right, now how do I pray here? I'd be like, God, look, this is what I need. All right, but you got it. I'm going to do whatever you need, But just so you know what I'm thinking, this is what I'm thinking would be the best plan, but I'm with you. Because it gets stuck in that never-ending cycle of but your will, but also I would like this done, but your will, I
always pray, Lord, override my ignorance.
That's what whenever I say prayers at night and I pray for Carter, my prayer is, dear Lord, please don't let me mess him up. Because he is. kids, they have to learn things,
Right.
but they come, the way I believe, sometimes hardwired. You know what I mean?
Right.
Carter is a very easy kid, and he always has been. He
Right.
came hardwired to be a pretty good kid, you know?
Right.
So I always pray, don't let me mess him up. You know,
Yeah.
like, don't let me do nothing to mess him
never
up.
heard
Like,
that.
you know, that's how I pray. And I don't know what
Yeah.
started it, but that's how I pray at night. Like, and then I also, one of my prayers is, God, if I'm not supposed to go that direction or do
Right.
that, slam the door in my face.
That's exactly.
Slam it, put my, you know, like my daddy did, slam my fingers in the door.
Slam
you know,
it,
like,
slam it till you
so
cry.
I know it's slammed, you know, like.
I believe we have to in those relationships.
But
and
you
those
know what's
things.
funny is like when he does, like with the situation of volunteering, when it slammed in my face, I was like, what, and mad about it instead of seeing it as, okay, you know what, that was
Right.
God going, nope, not that way,
Right.
keep going down the next one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You get mad at first, but
Yeah.
you have to remember what you prayed for.
Well, you know, I think that's one of the things I've shared before, that when we think about how God sent Moses down to Pharaoh, but he said, by the way, I'm going to give you a message and I'm going to make Pharaoh not accept it. I mean, here you got something before you because God wanted to move the children of Israel out of Egypt. And I think there's times in our life, I believe there's people that are mean to you that don't want to be mean to you.
Yeah.
Because it needs to get you where you need to be. And if not, you'll stay in that same position.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it'll be a position that's too easy. You're too much motor for the job.
Yeah.
And you'll stay in it because it's easy to coast. If you're pulling a little camper
Gotta have
and
a
you've got
little
a
friction.
350 dually, it's easy to do, okay?
Yeah.
So you're coasting with it. So same thing in some positions in our life. God has some great things for us that he wants us to do.
Yep.
And if we don't, but it's so easy not to do that. It's easy just to drop back and coast in
Well,
an
that's
easier
like I was
position.
talking about, some people are not your caliber of people. Maybe at a certain point they
Right.
were your caliber and you
Right.
were the right level, but your time to move up now. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're ready for the next phase. They're not there yet. That's when you've experienced
Right.
that friction and that door slam
Right.
in your face, and you got to acknowledge it and go, okay, this is not a setback. This is moving me forward.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, when I've talked to people that have remarried, that talk about how great their life is now than it was with their previous mate. Okay? And they'll tell me how great it is and how great my life is now. So I give them a few moments and I say, well, why are you still mad at that person if your life is so good now?
Sir.
Because if you would have stayed with that person,
It's a
your life
blessing.
wasn't good. I said, so you should thank that person for this not working out,
Yeah.
And then, but what really got me is I also went to the other person, like the husband first, and asked them about it. But then I went to the wife, because that first thing they done was start telling me what a rascal that
Yeah.
ex-husband was,
Yeah.
and I said, and how great their life was now. And I said, well, let me just ask you a question. I said, if your life is so great now, I shared with before, I had a buddy that was married to a woman that was very mean, little short, round, mean woman. And she would half beat him to death sometimes before he'd go to work, and would pour a box of Little Debbie's in his bag for lunch and make him
Listen,
take
though,
it to
about
work.
that part of it, though,
Yeah.
if you've packed enough lunches in those buckets, at a certain point, you're like, take the Little
Pour
Debbie's
the Little
and go.
Debbie's in. See, that's terrible.
So I'm going to back her on that one. But
and I would see him, and he'd have scratches all over him, where she would just was mean to him. But he's got a great wife now, and everything's working great. And I said, you should be really thankful, because if that other woman would have been a little bit nice to you,
just enough for you to stand it.
so if Pharaoh would have said, okay, we're going to give you a little more hay, a little more straw for the
Yeah.
bricks. We're Egypt now. We're going to do little things for you, give you another little part of so you can grow your own garden.
Yeah.
Then they would have said, okay, we're staying. Moses, you can't drive us out.
Yeah.
So but he had to be so evil to them. And there's just things in
So
life.
that
I
would be
really believe people have been mean to you that was for your own good.
For your own good, yeah. To move you on, to push you to.
That's exactly.
It's got to happen.
It's really something.
And that's that everybody for a season. You know what I
Right.
mean? Your season was over, and sometimes it's an abrupt change to the next season.
Life is chapter after chapter. And I know that mine seems like I don't know. Now I'm not sure exactly.
Your chapters are weird because yours are abrupt changes to the next chapter. Like, one of the things I was thinking about, like, when Mom was pregnant with me, y'all had John Boys. And then somehow we made the transition to the TV station and to the church. What was the transition that while you're at John Boys, all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to have a TV station, and I'm going to, I'm going to open it in the War, West Virginia, in this tiny room above a theater.
Well,
What
had 8 restaurants. We had 8 restaurants, and we got rid of.
I know this because people out town constantly tell me how much they love John Boy's, and that I'm the reason it ended.
It was. You were partly responsible for that. And we got rid of them in 30 days. I was teaching Sunday school, had 32 children in the Sunday school class on Sunday morning. I would take the whole Sunday school class out to breakfast before church. I believe that's why my class grew.
Probably.
I would take them to breakfast. We would have breakfast and stuff. But anyway, and when the Lord had really spoke to me and said, how long are you going to wait to do what I've called you to do? And I said, well, okay. So I got rid of everything in 30 days. Really good business. I was in a great business, but just shut stuff down and got rid of it and got out of it and just started getting rid of everything. And it was a tough and abrupt decision for the whole family.
Yeah.
And it just, but what really got me, that class was really, while I was still ministering and stuff, the Sunday school class was doing good. But I walked in, and I've shared this before, I walked, the church I was at, it's a great church and a great pastor. He retired and they got a new pastor. And I was when I was licensed I'm still licensed under H. Richard Hall, under Brother Hall, and because I love him. He's one of the greatest men I've ever met in my life. But Brother Hall, they would call him Jesus Only. That's back when there was Jesus Only and Trinitarian. They got that now. There's nothing.
Many names.
Nobody even talks about that anymore. They're so far past not even talking about it.
Because you don't even know the differences between them. Jesus Only, I only love Jesus
too.
What
it's not like it used to be.
No.
Okay, there was a season.
It got crazy though, so it shouldn't be like that anymore. The names got too crazy.
So what they done, where Brother Hall was a little more Jesus Only type, that they called me a Jesus Only, and the church I was in was a hardline Trinitarian church. Okay. Which I've been a member of the Church of God since I was 13 years old or younger than that, Moore, West Virginia, because in case I need to go to heaven, I'm still a member.
You gotta lock it in.
So there I am. So I walked downstairs into the Sunday school to get ready to go upstairs, and he met me, this new pastor. He said, "Are you John Dash?" He didn't know who I was. And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we don't need you here anymore. You can leave." So he booted me. Okay? He booted me. And he first
How
he
old
asked
were you when that happened? Because we may have got booted at the same ages in our life references.
So when he booted me, I said, "Well, isn't that something?" And but I knew that in my life you couldn't put me where God didn't want me to be. And I could sit there and teach that Sunday school class, and it was easy. Easy, man, easy. When I needed to be casting out devils and praying for the blind eyes and the deaf ears. So from that point, I began to go to the mission field, and every 30 days I would be in another country. I would be other places. My first trip to the mission field that I took one time, I used to take with Sister Hall. She took me, Brother Hall's wife took me to the mission field. But then one time I went overseas to Nassau, Bahamas. Didn't know nobody in Nassau, Bahamas. All I had was 2 boxes of New Testaments and some Bibles, and I had about 5,000 tracts that said, "What must I do to be saved?" And I got an airplane ticket, and I left. And I landed in Nassau, a one-way ticket, Nassau, Bahamas. Now, you children are all at home, okay? I'm there with a backpack with my clothes in it, a box of Bibles, a box of tracts, don't know anybody. So I got a taxi there to give me a ride, and I said, "I'm looking for someplace to sleep tonight."
How are you alive?
So he took me to this, right on the street there. There was it was called a guest house. It was a room over top of a bar. Okay, and so anyway, I paid my money for the room,
as you do.
I said for a week at a time. I paid what, like $50 or something for the week. So anyway, it was a pretty rough place. It was so rough at night. I slept I put my pants inside of my socks so the roaches wouldn't crawl at my britches legs. And I always I had to sleep with a sheet over top of me, and I could see the bugs crawling on the outside of it. But anyway, and the music would play all night.
Your lullaby.
That's all I could hear, man, outside that at Nassau and the Bahamas music. And then all day I would walk the streets passing out tracts, not knowing anybody. I would walk up and down every street. And I would ask people if they wanted a Bible. I had a little backpack. It was a nylon backpack, and I remember it tore up finally because I had it loaded with Bibles and stuff like, and I would stop and sit on the street, and I would just give people a tract.
Yeah.
And there's so many friends that I made there, and people that I made. I remember walking into a beauty shop one time. It was like just a little rough beauty shop, and a lady was sitting there, and she was crying, and I walked in and said, "Hey, can I give you a tract?" And she said, "Yeah." And I got talking to her and got to pray with her. And then I would go in the marketplace. The old Nassau, Bahamas marketplace was different. It was a lot of old women and stuff like that. It wasn't like all this Chinese stuff.
It's crazy now.
And I would sit with those women in the marketplace and talk to them.
Yeah.
And we would just talk and sit there, and they loved me. and when I went back years later, they would see me and remember me and come running and hug me.
Well, I mean, you probably were an anomaly.
No,
it's
it
not like they
wasn't.
were like, oh, which crazy kid is it with the backpack that sleeps over the bar? No, there's only one of those.
It was just when I started, I'd done that, and I would stay out of the country, and I traveled all over from Mexico to San Salvador to England. But I would go on the street and just take off like that, and I would just need a little bit of directions. All I would need, the Lord would just allow a little door open, and I'd go to places with no electricity, islands.
I remember
nothing.
there was pictures from one that Mom had went with you. And they had painted a banner or something, right? Where was that at? They painted a banner for y'all and had like you and Mom
had our
painted
picture on it and
Yes.
stuck like that.
Mom spoke there, which if you know Mom, that's insane.
It was.
But I remember seeing the video of Mom speaking, and I was like, look at her.
But it was just the transition from that point. There was a point there that I had, and this come from me. I'd never done a book report in school. I never stood in front of a class one time. Never. So just give me an F. I don't care. Just match the rest of the Fs. I didn't care.
I used to keep a uniform.
I remember walking down the back street at War because I was just self-conscious and wouldn't walk down the street because I just didn't want to be seen.
Yeah.
I can remember times in my life I never wanted to be in front of anybody in my whole life. And it was just, there was a turning point there that you thought, when he said, how long are you going to wait? I really wasn't sure what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that's the blind faith that sometimes you follow the Lord with.
Well, and the faith that if I'm going the right direction, He'll stop it. You know what I mean? If I thought I knew right, He'll correct me. I tell Andrew too, it's like I preach this to him all the time whenever he talks about anything of, oh, I want to do this, or I feel like I need to be there. You're going to be where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Nobody's messing up God's plan.
Right.
Nobody's coming against you. Nobody's going to be scheming over there that's going to do better than him.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's got the plan. Just follow the plan. Yeah, maybe sometimes you stepped out of the line and not in the plan. He'll get you back. You know what I mean? Like, I just have firm faith that I'm where I'm supposed to be, and if I'm not, He'll correct me. But it's my job to listen. You can't just go, oh, I'll just walk wherever I want and God will put me there, and never stop and talk to God. If you don't ever stop and ask for directions, you don't know you're going the right way. You have to check in every now and then. And at our house, everything is, well, did you pray? Carter was putting his bands in for his braces the other day, and I said, you need to stop and say a little prayer before. Everything, stop and say a prayer. And afterwards, did you thank Jesus? We pray about everything in our house. I said, because God cares about big, small, everything. I'll pray over anything. I'll stop and pray. It doesn't matter. We pray before practices at sports, and I'm gonna pray about it.
Oh Lord, I think about that poor dog. We got a dog, Lena at the house, and your mom's always trying to get her to pray. When she's cleaning her eyes and doing her stuff, she's saying, Lena, say thank you, Jesus, Lena, say thank you. And I said, the very time she says that, I'm leaving here.
I mean,
if I can hear that dog speak like that.
Don't put it past her, okay? Don't put it past her. That dog has come back from the dead, and just her last little leg she's living on, literally. But you can't stop her. You can't slow her down none either.
No. To be...
She's got more
pounds.
Attitude than a dog 10 times her size.
I can't understand her. I don't know. I don't know what to do with her. I don't know. I keep looking at her and thinking, well, she just stays on.
No, she just stays with just anger and just annoyance.
So when you think about your brother and sister, which
I do often with care and concern.
There are the difference when I think about you kids, it's just, and I think, and I told your mom, I said, I'm glad we stopped at 3 children so we didn't have a bad one.
No,
I said,
stopped at perfection.
We
you had me and you were like, that's
if we'd have had another, and I would love to have had 10,
Yeah.
But I mean, but you're bound to get some rascals if you got 10, ain't you?
That's what, well, me and Andrew, we wanted, whenever we first got married, we wanted tons of kids. That was like, we wanted tons, you
Right.
know, and I had the miscarriage before Carter, and then I had Carter at 26 weeks. So the
Right.
decision was made,
Right.
you're done, you're having one.
Right.
But now we look back and I tell Andrew, I was like, it's probably good because that kid was so good, such an easy
Right.
baby. I was like,
Yeah.
we would have got one that swung from the
Well,
chandelier.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about where you had him at 26 weeks.
26 weeks.
So how did that go?
We had the miscarriage before at 21 weeks. So we were already high alert, like,
Right.
be ready. And I went into labor with him at 26 weeks. I was in labor all day long and I had no idea. Me and Mom went on a walk.
Right.
She was like, maybe it's just, you know, where you're because I was big. Pregnant.
Right.
If you see me, you wouldn't think
Right.
I was 26 weeks. So just thought that's what it was. But no. Turns out we got to the hospital. It took time for Carter, you
Right.
know, and I had to have an emergency C-section. I remember going down the hallway
Right.
praying out loud.
Right.
Like I told him,
Yeah.
I'm going to pray. And the woman grabbed my hand saying, you go ahead, lady. I'll pray with you.
Yeah.
You know, like
Right.
just, it was a whirlwind. We were in the NICU for 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, it was terrible, but there's so many memories that are a blessing. I think that's what bonded us to where we're that 3 little huddle. We're always
Right.
together wherever we are because
Right.
that's how we were. It
Yeah.
was hours sitting and staring at an isolate in the tiny room because he went and got the MRSA infection when he was a baby. A whole bunch of them did. So he had to be even more isolated than a normal NICU baby in his own little room by himself.
Yeah.
So Carter
Yeah.
got a suite, we like to say, in the NICU, which it was, y'all were there.
Yeah, I mean, and you can hold a baby in the palm of your hand.
Tiny, right here.
I mean, it's just fascinating. Now, I guess that's what, you know, and I just want to, I'll touch on this. When we think about abortions now, to me, I just can't, I mean, and I know it happens and there's forgiveness, okay? There's
Yeah.
forgiveness. But if you can be for that,
You got to
I
seek the
just-
forgiveness. You got to see it
right,
wasn't the choice.
right.
There's other choices. There's forgiveness if you seek it and everything.
Right.
But if you're going to stand there and still say it wasn't, I've seen. I mean, when we named him Austin our first. We had him at 21 weeks. His baby. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
His
I
arms,
remember.
eyes, mouth. He looked like Andrew.
Right. I
You know,
remember.
like he was baby. 100%.
Right.
That's 21 weeks. People will have an abortion at 21
Yeah.
weeks. And even when Carter was born, there was a baby in the NICU, a couple isolates from him, that was born at 20 weeks.
yeah.
That was baby. I seen parents around that isolate family coming to see that baby. You know what I mean? It's a child.
Yeah, I you know, it's
Day
heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. And you know, like 70-80% of these children that are aborted are black babies.
Yeah.
Okay, when people think about the amount of time, I mean, if you ever thought of an assault on the black community,
It's that.
It's this. It's Planned Parenthood,
It's
which is the
awful.
crookedest bunch of dogs that I've ever seen in my
Yeah.
life. You know, it's just so. I mean, it's
There's
heartbreaking.
just no excuse. There's so many other options for it, and I don't care what the thing is. You want to do the broad scheme of, oh, it was this or it was that, how they were conceived. It doesn't matter. That's still a child.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't.
Right.
So if this child, their parents are awful people, does the child not matter?
Right.
The child matters. It doesn't. I don't care how it got there. That's a child.
Yeah.
That's a human. That's a baby. It deserves a chance. Maybe
Right.
it was going to do good. You don't know. You
Right.
never gave it a chance.
Right.
And if the whole I can't take care of it, that's why adoption is a thing. I mean, it's so easy to find. And they have them where they'll pay for everything. You think, oh, I can't take the financial cost. There's adoptions where in the contract, they buy your maternity clothes. They pay for every doctor's appointment. They'll pay for vitamins you need.
Right.
I mean, there's so many reasons to not.
Yeah.
There's every reason that you've given that you need to have one, there's a reason why they can help you, and it cannot be the choice.
Right.
There's so many.
I know it's heartbreaking. I think about it a lot, and it's I guess it's heartbreaking, and I know it has always been, but it seems to be abortion
Still
used
has a
as
lot of bad things, though. It doesn't mean they need to always be.
It seems to be like a form of birth control almost. For
Same.
people, and I don't know, man. I'm not afraid to speak out on those positions and do
No.
that. There's just a different point you begin to come to that right is right and wrong is wrong, and murder is still murder.
Yeah.
And that
I
child
think it's
is
such
murdered.
a thing to throw in the face of, too, because being able to be pregnant is such a blessing. So someone that
Right.
I did everything I could to stay pregnant for 26 weeks. I
Right.
mean, I was put myself on a temporary bed rest. I
Right.
did everything I could to try and stay pregnant. So when you get that opportunity,
Right.
don't think of that as a burden. Even if you're not keeping that baby, if you're giving it for adoption, that is such a blessing to be able to do and to give somebody that somebody
Right.
can only dream of. There's so
Right.
many women that are infertile and can't be pregnant.
Right.
it is absolutely insane thing to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating. It's not something to be thrown away or looked at as a burden.
Yeah.
It's not. And the same thing I think whenever they're like, oh, I can't do what I want if I have a kid. I do whatever.
Right.
Carter, it's a blessing. I'm a mother before I'm anything else, and that's not a sacrifice. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I've got to go do this. I get to go do these things with my kids because I know it's a blessing. It's in not even in just the froofy way. I wanted to be a mom. I want to do that. But Carter he's not just my son, we're friends. Like, he's my friend. I knew he was mine the moment I had him. I knew I was his. Locked down, that was it. I want to do things with him. So don't have the abortion out of fear. You know what I mean? You can be a mom. You can. But it's rewarding.
What is going to be cool
Oh, no.
is when some little old pretty girl comes by with ringlets in her hair, and old Carter gets that emotional thing churning in his heart where he says, she's so pretty.
She's got to have red hair.
Okay.
I've just embedded that into him
I'm just thinking
constantly.
because, it never works out. But, I mean, it never works out good as far as with the mother and that one that's going to steal that.
I am delight to get along with. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but when she comes along, and it's just going to be something. That's like Morgan.
Me and Michelle didn't have that, though. When I
Right.
came along for Andrew, Michelle was like, here you go, take him.
Yeah, she wanted him to leave. Yeah, I sort of was like that with Andrew too when he come along.
Yeah, y'all took Andrew,
yeah.
they took me.
But,
So maybe it'll work that way. Maybe I'll find a little Kelsey. But I tell him all the time, I'm like, Carter, they don't make them like me anymore. Okay, so you're gonna have to I don't know if you're gonna be able to find a woman who can take the sarcasm we hit at each other all the time. I came downstairs today and I was still wearing my getting ready pajama around the house clothes, and he goes, "Is that what you're wearing?" And I responded with, "Yeah, this is exactly what I wear."
Yeah.
So he's got to have a woman that can take that.
Yeah,
So
you may have to order her online.
we might have to
I'm
because it's
thinking-
very specific needs. She's gonna
Yeah.
have to have backbone.
Yeah, I can see where
Strong,
this could be.
like a steel.
Can you imagine how Morgan is going to be when Caleb?
That's gonna be worse.
Because I mean, that boy, she really
Yeah.
a lot revolves around that boy. I mean, she's going to be absolutely. I mean, it's going to be.
It's going to be
fascinating.
Colton and Chris will be the opposite. When somebody comes for Colton, they're like, "Thank you, you
Okay.
occupy him for a few minutes. We're out." That's going to be a saint of a woman.
It's a hoot, man.
He's a lot. He's a little bundle.
Well, we have covered a few things that we had wrote down.
A few things. I don't
Okay.
know if I had any good ones to give you that I hadn't gave you.
I don't know if we've.
I think we've covered a lot of
I
them.
think we've covered it subconsciously. We have covered 20 questions.
Yeah, I think we accidentally covered a lot of them. Sorry, Mom, that we didn't ask them all directly.
I think next time what we need to do is just talk about other people
I like to do that.
Okay.
That's my favorite thing to do.
and the world as we know
All
it.
the wrong choices they made, how
talk
we would have
about-
done it better. Carter is tired.
Oh.
Carter's tired. See, this is how
our
my
help.
life runs. My
Our help.
mother now, it's all over.
Your mom, she don't know. I have the hard part, and she's just, it's really hard on her to
It's
sit
really
in.
hard on her.
He has to sit in.
But you know what? If people hear all your stories of every story you just told
Yeah.
about your crazy life, remember that she was at home,
Right.
okay, holding the fort down. So
Right.
she's really been through a lot there.
Well, when we had you, I just dropped her off and went to Mexico.
Yeah, it's in your Bible.
I
What
dropped
was
you
it?
out.
Like a week after I was born, it says in there
Yeah.
that you went to Mexico. I was like, Dad, I was an infant,
Well, what
brand
was
new.
I to
I
do?
still smelled brand new, baby smell.
What was I supposed to do?
I don't know. Stay home.
And do what? I mean, I'm not going to change a diaper. I'm
Ooh,
not
and
going
on
to feed
me,
you.
I was so cute. So cute. The first baby picture of me and Morgan, she's going like this.
Yeah, that's always been her attitude.
Yeah. Colson was thumbs up at me though.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
even that explains our whole dynamic quite well.
Really. All right, next time our commitment is to talk about other people.
Their mistakes and how we
okay?
would have done it
We're
better.
gonna come up with some questions about the world
Uh huh.
and what they need to do different.
Yes, absolutely.
So we can take the highlight